The Red Lotus Fairy was shocked. Envious of the East. What are you doing? The others were also greatly surprised by Envious of the East's abrupt action. The Envious of the East who struck Xie Chang'an dead with a single slap smiled, "This is merely a scattered star cultivator, what is the fairy doing getting stirred over this? This immortal arduously protected his life, yet you slapped him dead. Give this immortal an explanation." The Red Lotus Fairy gnashed her teeth. The other ancestors were also dissatisfied. Envious of the East said, "Envious also fears he is yet another star master." The other galaxy cultivators were already somewhat in a riot. However, they were very quickly calmed by the other ancestors. "Envious, your meaning is?" Ancestor Longevity narrowed his eyes. To guard against the unexpected. If we were to be suddenly sneak attacked by a star master, would everyone here be peaceful? Envious of the East looked around him, galaxy cultivators able to reach this place all have some talent. Your servant would not be at ease even if he himself died. Killing a cultivator in a single strike without uttering a single word. The ancestors were shocked enough by Envious of the East's cautious attitude that their blood ran cold. It would be better to first put this off until we pass Gecko Cliff. We also require assistance, and it will suffice to keep this in mind. Xian Jinzi shook his head, right now unhappily taking the big step of breaking his vow of no killing. This simply was giving Lady Snake Scorpion a sight to laugh at. It was just that for fear of Envious of the East's cultivation being the highest, he could only conform with the others. Fine then. In the future, do not regret it. The Red Lotus Fairy silently looked at the Xie Chang'an whose breath had stopped. Gazing at Envious of the East, a trace of sinister hatred flashed in her eyes. Suddenly, she looked around and discovered that there were still two other ancestors that had not arrived. What about Taoist Master Qing Lian and Ancestor Qianli? How have they still not arrived? No need to wait any further. Perhaps they already met with the same situation that the Red Lotus Fairy did, running into a mishap. Xian Jinzi sighed. What? Could it be there is a star master that can handle two supercluster old monsters? The Red Lotus Fairy said in disbelief. Even if they were to encounter that legendary purple thunder monster, it cannot be possible that both died. This immortal encountered double clubs Huyan Zhua and still repelled her. Does that Taoist Master Qing Lian not have a green lotus peak magic weapon also? Regardless of the situation, we already cannot wait any longer. This can wait until after things are finished. Envious of the East waved his hand. Or perhaps they hid themselves in preparation to loot a burning house. Ancestor Longevity laughed aloud. The Red Lotus Fairy kept a lookout on the myriad caverns, suddenly shouting, "Who there is peeping?" Everyone was stunned. Their divine intents swept forth, yet nothing was peculiar at all. Red Lotus, you are too sensitive. Envious of the East said in annoyance. The Red Lotus Fairy and Taoist Master Qing Lian had a considerably deep friendship. Seeing her this flustered, the ancestors said nothing but smiled with deeper meanings. The Red Lotus Fairy wrinkled her brow. She had indeed sensed the green lotus peak, but it was fleeting. Could it be she truly was mistaken? No more nonsense, we are leaving. They then swiftly moved towards the faraway cliffs. Not long after, a youth and a cool and elegant woman walked out from the Thousand Spiders cave. Did you anticipate that Envious of the East would kill you, that you would not go out? Wu Xiao mockingly asked. Su Xing affirmed, with things very clearly done to this degree, these ancestors would not leave any of the other cultivators alive. I just didn't think he would be so quick to act, nor do I know why. Su Xing looked at the corpse lying on the grasslands. Due to distance being too far, he could not clearly hear the reason Envious of the East would kill Xie Chang'an. Actually, those ancestors losing the Lingbo Fairy made Su Xing feel contemplative. It seems that having reached this stage, these ancestors have begun to harbor sinister designs. Then what do you plan to do? All roads lead to Rome. The Jade Alum Palace's surroundings are so huge, we shall just enter from the side. Seo, do you actually want to go together? Su Xing still was very anxious. Could it be that you believe your servant will implicate you? Wu Seo sneered. Su Xing shook his head. Since they had already reached this stage, having Wu Seo stay here was not too possible. Lin Yingmei's side seemingly was still somewhat troublesome, and Su Xing also wanted to settle this 10,000-year Gu affair with all possible speed. At the moment, he said no more and walked along a different path. Su Xing walked on a very large plain, the vegetation of which appeared black. Originally, he had thought that he could relax a bit after leaving the 5 poisons, but it appeared that was not the case. These black poison grasses hovered above the plains like aquatic plants. If a cultivator stayed for a long time on these plains, his energy would be absorbed by these poison grasses in a steady, unending flow, making cultivators unceasingly use star energy for protection, thus wasting their magic energy. Su Xing thought that what this lady snake scorpion arranged sure enough was watertight. The previous poison dragon swamp, the scorpion barrenness, the toad black river and the centipede canyon and thousand spiders cave, also, were 5 poisons of every kind, each consolidated at every step. These made people surprised, and even if they passed the 5 poisons by fluke, this seemingly tranquil poison plain was actually unwittingly absorbing the energy of people, an invisible killer. Just as they were speeding along. Suddenly, the grasslands rustled. Careful! A black thread like a clever snake proceeded under the cover of the poison grasses as it suddenly went straight for Su Xing. Su Xing's face sunk, and he coldly snorted, shaking his sleeve. More than 10 purple thunders fiercely shot out from his sleeve in succession. Immediately after, he raised the clinging fire star domain sword. This astral treasure cut empty space, and a scarlet sword chi ferociously slashed. Su Xing discerned that the poison thread in front of him and the 1,000 corpse queen spider's poison thread were very similar. He did not dare neglect it. Using the purple thunder and clinging fire to break it, destroying this spider silk was not a problem at all with the purple mansion immortal's thunder and clinging fire. However, he had not expected that after a puff, puff, sound, that black thread would penetrate the purple mansion immortal's thunder as if it was not there. Then, the purple thunder flashed, and the purple thunder's purple clouds instantly were split in 2 by the spider silk. Furthermore, the closely following clinging fire star domain sword that slashed this object was not any stronger than the purple mansion immortal's thunder. It only made the spider silk's toughness show, and then it was similarly cut up. This spider silk practically was a divine weapon. This spider silk that did not stop in the slightest had not yet reached Su Xing. Su Xing was greatly surprised, and flicking 5 fingers, a purple lotus flower was unhurriedly flicked out. Blocking towards the spider silk, it was nearly at the same time that Su Xing moved out his flying sword. The heave-tearing golden swords flashed and directly hacked downwards. The power of 5 spirits perhaps encountering an item of mutual restraint would be easily pierced through, but the heaven-tearing flying sword's attack could cope with it. Su Xing's mind quickly brainstormed. It was like his own, as expected. When heaven-tearing slashed onto the spider silk, it immediately made the spider silk that was flying over stall in place. Su Xing had not yet urged on the flying sword's powers when he heard a cold laugh from an unknown place. The spider silk was briefly indistinct, and it unexpectedly released more than 100 black threads. The 100 strings turned, forming a massive spider web. Then a layer of strange silk appeared on the spider web. The flying sword's light and the serene light touched, unexpectedly entangling the heaven-tearing whose sharpness was matchless. Su Xing coldly chuckled, striking several hand seals. Heaven-tearing's golden light flourished, revolving into a sword array. With a rustle, the spider silk had been ripped open, but Su Xing was shocked to discover a blemish had appeared in heaven-tearing's spiritual power. This spider web's background was not small, unexpectedly corrupting a sword chant. Su Xing recalled the swords. That the 1,000 corpse queen spider would die at your hands actually is not an injustice. Unexpectedly, you are capable of breaking even your servant's 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web. 2. Each word was somewhat seductive, yet the voice was also full of shock. Su Xing hinted to Wu Xiao with his eyes. The pilgrim understood tacitly and concealed her figure. Playing tricks before your servant. Humph. The voice sneered, and spider silk shot out from nowhere, forming a net wall. The spider silk released black chi, leaving Wu Xiao no choice but to halt her advance. An alluringly adorned woman leisurely walked out. What she wore was extremely erotic. Her chest was wrapped only with a tiny red bodice, close to half-naked, and her flower skirt swayed gently. Her fine black hair had a crystal web-shaped adornment, and her eyes were lovely and erotic. In particular were her 10 slender and fine fingers, the black nails of which shot spider silk that she played around with in her palm. Her cultivation was supercluster early stage. A demi-king. Su Xing had heard that the Gecko Cliff past the 5 Poisons of 5 Poisons Mountain would be the final barrier to the Jade Alum Palace. Although Gecko Cliff was unlike the previous 5 poisons that were dangerous at every step, one wrong step would be a complete disaster. However, similar dangers were layered. Several thousand demi-soldiers guarded the cliff, and the 5 poisons demi-kings of 5 Poisons Mountain were even more ready for battle. They could not be ignored. However, Su Xing could never have thought that his killing the 1,000-corpse queen spider would alarm Pensier. This pretty and flirty demi-king Pensi searched for the presence of the 1,000-corpse queen spider's soul. Pensier then quickly pursued, having a chance encounter with the Su Xing that wanted to walk an isolated trail. Behind Pensier were an additional 100 demi-soldiers, each demonic and fiendish. Little ones, kill this cheating couple. Demi-king Pensi yelled. So as to avoid the white and black unicorn tiger's tiger growl attracting the others' attention, Wu Xiao had stored the white and black unicorn tiger into her star world. Seeing that this group of demi-soldiers had come to die, she disdainfully raised the double-headed sword to attack. These demi-soldiers hidden deep in Vermilion Bird territory and Demi-King Pensi did not understand much about the star duels. They did not look at Wu Xiao's noble frost demonic lotus, only taking her to be a martial cultivator. Su Xing at this time also launched an attack, however, the space was only a few zhang. As far as Su Xing was concerned, people that relied only on speed practically could be ignored. It was just that Demi-King Pensi's speed made him very surprised, unexpectedly not neglecting her in the slightest. A sinister and enchanting laugh. The two entered into battle in an instant. Su Xing immediately sniffed danger, drawing back without stopping at all. He had already retreated far away, and a bucket-like black spider web already shot violently towards the place he was just fighting at. The terrifying power violently crushed the stone and spattered it. A large hole already appeared at that place. In just a short moment of contact, Su Xing had returned without any achievements. Such a quick attack, and the power of that 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web also was abnormally valiant. The Vermilion Bird Territories Demi-King were unlike the Vermilion Bird Territories, 3, cultivators, for they had supercluster magic energy but exceedingly few powers. As a result, if similar realms were to fight, the majority of the Azure Dragon Territory cultivators could win with greater probability. However, there were still a few demi-kings that possessed powers that were more powerful than cultivators' flying swords and magic weapons. If they were encountered, let alone that their realms were the same as a cultivator's, even those one realm higher would not necessarily be an opponent. All demi-kings had their own abilities, and seeing this demi-king Pensi, it was very clear hers was a spider silk ability. It was unknown to what stage that 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web had been refined to in her body. The myriad spider silk allowed her to search, and it was several times more powerful than flying swords turned to thread. A single 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web absolutely could make cultivators sink into a place with no reprieve. If she had encountered other cultivators, Even if it was an opponent of ancestor Qianli's level, Pan Seer had the self-confidence to win, but the person she encountered was Su Xing, a cultivator that although was galaxy early stage nevertheless created many miracles. Of course, apart from him, there was still another even more frightening fighter. Humph. Wu Xiao coldly smiled, suddenly rushing over. A spider web opened, and though the harm star stepped within, it was like her shoes tread level ground. Unexpectedly, she was not obstructed in the slightest. How is this possible? Pan Seer was astonished. The harm star Wusong's innate skill was the pilgrim's array. Normal arrays or spider silk basically were incapable of obstructing Wu Xiao. Demi-King Pansi withdrew her fingers, and shouting, her fist swung past Wu Xiao's attack path. A poison chi immediately wound around the silk, and the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities silk brought a violent wind pressure. With a vague flicker, the poison grasses were disintegrated in an instant, as if a blade had flown in all four directions. A hook formed on Wu Xiao's lips. Ducking under the spider silk, she lowered her body and swooped down, her entire person instantly sticking close to the surface of the earth, as if she was a flying fish skimming the water's surface. Her speed once again increased a level. At the same time, her right hand's noble frost demonic lotus was ready to attack. A swift and severe imposing air pounced towards her directly from the front, and Demi-King Pansi could only feel that the surrounding airflow seemingly turned more formidable than her 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities spider silk. Her body unexpectedly gave rise to a slightly constricted feeling, as if the surrounding space emitted an immense pressure towards her. This made Demi-King Pansi's heart shiver and feel disbelief. This woman was not that simple. Demi-King Pansi flourished her 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web, promptly making a defense. Regardless of what level of power the opponent was, as long as she had the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web protecting her, that woman presumably could not injure her. However, just at this moment, Wu Xiao's cool and elegant figure already reached her front. The noble frost demonic lotus cut down the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities silk, and her palm already heavily chopped onto her. Demi-King Pansi's silhouette immediately was launched violently away. Abruptly putting strength to her legs, Wu Xiao's body first ran, the speed unexpectedly extremely quick. With several great strides, she had already crossed over the distance between them. Her body fiercely leaned, her shoulder angled outwards. In that instant, Wu Xiao concentrated all her strength on her body rather than her armament, completely turning herself into a lethal weapon. She carried a severe wind pressure, again mercilessly slamming the place Demi-King Pansi was at. The 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web suddenly spread open, and the spider web rolled towards Wu Xiao layer by layer. 3 bright stars glowed, and the noble frost demonic lotus very easily stabbed directly through. This instant could count as a fact that even those ignorant of the star duels would recognize. To be capable of refining star weapons to manifest stars, and to be able to be this stunning, in all of Liangshan, there was only one type of people that could achieve this. You are a star general. Demi-King Pansi was dumbstruck. The 100 demi-soldiers on the other side also launched an assault. These 5 poisons demi-troops each had their own innate gifts. Their bodies donned black armor, and they carried tempered arms, wanting to surround Wu Xiao. However, how could Su Xing give them this chance? Suddenly putting strength to his feet, he was like a panther as he instantly leapt into the middle of the demi-soldiers. In the instant that these demi-soldiers reacted, he cut directly through their frail defenses. Afterwards, he suddenly reached out for a demi-soldier and clutched its neck with his right hand. He then ruthlessly flung the demi-soldier away, the immense power throwing that fully 200-kilogram body as it was an artillery shell, flying straight. With a tremendous noise, it slammed into the cliff face, smashing open a deep crater. The other demi-soldiers seemed to not have seen that. All of them launched an attack on Su Xing together. Whether it was using poison or unleashing a goo or even completely charging forward to close the distance, they believed cultivators were all of the same kind. Several demi-soldiers' poison arrows were just like poisonous snakes, their movements fine yet fierce. From time to time, these hidden arrows flew out, but it was very difficult to imagine how their boorish forms could have ever employed such delicate yet also dangerous arrow arts. A dazzling poison light cut open the air with an unending chi sound, demonstrating the extraordinary strength of the demi-soldiers. Su Xing's body was as if it had lost its weight. He floated and moved amongst the 100 demi-soldiers' siege. No matter how tight the assault, he always would find a hole in their attacks and then timely dodge away. That body technique was even faster than the wind. It was just that these demi-soldiers' close-quarters martial arts were not bad either. Although their attacks had many gaps, under mutual coordination, the first indistinct signs of slightly containing Su Xing developed. Su Xing was not in the mood to deal with these demi-soldiers, however, for fear of attracting the attention of Envious of the East and the rest several thousand meters away, he could only suppress his methods as much as possible, his eyes bursting with a cold light. A ringing sound of metallic arms clashing, 5 demi-soldiers mounting a joint attack brandished sharp claws that slammed into each other. Su Xing had already lowered his body and stuck close to the ground the instant they attacked. Flipping his wrist, one heaven-tearing violently swept in a large circle through the surroundings like a hurricane. Its wild brute power conquered every obstacle, and all of the surrounding demi-soldiers had great difficulty escaping this disaster. Suddenly, metal clanged against each other. His short hair flying, Su Xing stabbed his hands and a foot in different directions, right away intercepting the fierce attack of 3 demi-soldiers. This time, Su Xing secretly used the power of the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder on his palms. The purple thunder being restrained produced a muffled sound that filled Su Xing's attack. He had not expected that by keeping purple thunder in his hand, the attack would actually be unusually good. After several demi-soldiers collapsed, the other fighters launched even fiercer close combat attacks. Before long, the more than half of the 100 demi-soldiers had met a violent end. Su Xing at this time saw that Demi-King Pansi was already being forced by Wu Xiao to retreat step by step. She suddenly hissed sharply, her arms frantically waving, and her whole body emitted black qi. The black qi was in bursts, surging evil clouds. Demi-King Pansi opened her mouth, spitting out 10,000 strands of spider silk. This spider silk shot over, filling the sky, like fireworks blossoming and covering everything in a range of 100 meters. It made people basically no chance of dodging. Clearly, this Demi-King Pansi was already recklessly using her most powerful ability. Su Xing pinched together a hand seal. Purple cloud true star gushed forth and warded off these threads. How could Demi-King Pansi ever have foresaw a galaxy stage cultivator like Su Xing would have powers that could contend against hers? While she was astonished, Wu Xiao's figure escaped, easily breaking free of the layers of spider web and slashing downwards. Demi-King Pansi opened her mouth, once again spitting a clump of spider silk. Wu Xiao's figure slightly leaned, one leg sweeping over. She kicked Demi-King Pansi's stomach, which sent her flying. Demi-King Pansi had not returned to her senses when she suddenly saw a figure that seemingly waited for a long time appear at a place behind her. By the time Demi-King Pansi noticed, she saw Su Xing's cold smile. A token flashed in her eyes. Demi-King Pansi's heart shouted, "This is bad." Her 10 fingers waved to control some spider silk, but Su Xing was faster than her by a step. The god's sealing plate struck her forehead with a bang, and the woman screamed, falling where she was. "Receive." Su Xing said no more, sending his divine intent into the god's sealing plate in his hand. The god's sealing plate was an immemorial secret treasure of the Vermilion Bird territory specially used to trap a cultivator's mind. There were pros and cons to trapping 2 minds, however, the user necessarily had to have divine intent stronger than that of the one being trapped. Otherwise, the one that was trapped would easily break free and regain control, turning the tables and absorbing the caster's divine intent for a complete disaster. The current Su Xing had received 6-star generals, and his divine intent could be said to have surpassed all others before and since. Trapping a supercluster early-stage cultivator still was not done easily. When Demi-King Pansi saw the god's sealing plate had sealed a piece of her mind from her Tianling point, too, into the plate, she immediately gnashed her teeth. She circulated her divine intent to swallow it back, secretly even jeering at Su Xing's stupidity. A galaxy early-stage cultivator receiving her divine intent practically was bringing about his own destruction. But after several breaths, Demi-King Pansi suddenly sensed the opponent's divine intent was abnormally powerful. Although her own trained mind was not strong, she was supercluster stage, after all. Nevertheless, she had not expected she would be like an ant in front of the opponent. A star master. Demi-King Pansi was shocked. She immediately could recall contracted star masters possessed star nests, and these star nests were capable of powerful divine intents. Why do you not kill her? Wu Xiao was confused. We still need her to guide us to the Jade Alum Palace. Su Xing replied. How do you have this type of immemorial secret treasure? Demi-King Pansi hatefully glared at Su Xing. Su Xing flashed the god's sealing plate, and Demi-King Pansi immediately became respectful, not daring to vent herself any longer. If the mind inside the god's sealing plate was destroyed, she would also more or less die. No nonsense. Inform me that Lady Snake Scorpion still has the Jade Alum Palace's 10,000-year goo. Su Xing coldly said, an evil smile spreading across his lips. If you obediently cooperate, I will not make this difficult for you. If you harbor ulterior motives, then do not blame me. Yes. Demi-King Pansi eagerly agreed. 10 years ago, Lady Snake Scorpion began to design the 5 Poisons Mountain Forbid dance. The 6th poison after the 5 poisons, the Gecko Cliff, was a gigantic natural moat. The cliff was 100 ren, 3, high, glossy as a mirror. The 4 great demi-kings and the thousands of 5 poison demi-soldiers all stood guard again and again. If it was exchanged for one allowing riding sword flight, this Gecko Cliff naturally could be ignored, but after the 5 Poisons Mountain Forbid dance, to scale it was simply a dream. Furthermore, 5 Poisons Mountain's final forbid dance was in this cliff. Indeed, it sounded amazing, but Lady Snake Scorpion had one point that she nevertheless did not think of. That was that a supervoid cultivator would have designs on her. Supervoid cultivators could use their power of heaven and earth to urge on supervoid flight. Already, they had no need for flying swords, and after passing the 5 poisons, the Gecko Cliff's poison mist and magic miasma would already have more or less vanished into thin air. After all, demi-kings and demi-soldiers could not possibly guard within the poison cloud. So by the time Su Xing rushed to Gecko Cliff, the scene had become a tussle of the supervoid cultivator Envious of the East going to break the Gecko Pillar, and Lady Snake Scorpion assigning someone to go obstruct and kill him. The Rock Demon King has not come yet. This Lady Snake Scorpion honestly is arrogant. On a remote trail, Su Xing watched the several thousand-meter Gecko Cliff. Already, he spotted Envious of the East and the other ancestors. Seeing Envious of the East soaring in the air, the imposing air of a single flip of the wrist annihilating several hundred demi-soldiers certainly was stunning. Humph. Pensier hooked a sneer onto her lips. Su Xing felt her expression had a trick. Could it be that she has a killing move? What Su Xing could think of was the Lady Snake Scorpion Xia twin star generals, but standing off in the face of a supercluster cultivator was a praying mantis stopping a cart, overestimating their capabilities. Master, although the Rock Demon King did not come, there is still Zhong Qi. Zhong Qi. A demi-king. Demi-kings had always respected strong. Since Su Xing could restrain her, Pensier actually very quickly fell into the slave-servant role. She replied, how would slave-servant know? She only knows the Rock Demon King is but extremely deferential towards this Zhong Qi. Slave-servant only knows he is from the White Tiger territory. The White Tiger territory. This time, it was Wu Xiao that could not help but raise her brows. The White Tiger territory was Liangshan continent's most mysterious as well as most dangerous place. That place was a vast trillion li, rich in demon beasts. The Azure Dragon Territory, Vermilion Bird Territory and the Black Turtle Territory's demon beasts were not very common to see, but the White Tiger Territory's demon beasts honestly were too numerous to count. Often, there would be cultivator teams formed to go treasure hunt in the White Tiger Territory, but that place was in extreme lack of spiritual influences. 7th and 8th rank demon beasts could be seen anywhere that encounters were practically slaughters. Surviving cultivators' rumors added more terror to the White Tiger Territory, thus everyone believed the White Tiger Territory was the habitat of wasteland beasts from the prehistoric era. Those that dared go could be counted on the fingers. However, it was said that if one could walk out of the White Tiger Territories, 8 wastelands and 1,000 ancients, he could arrive at the legendary Star World. Star World was a myth of Liangshan continents. The heavenly 108 stars were believed to have descended from Star World. It could be clearly seen that they were incredible. Hearing Pensieur say this, Su Xing felt some disbelief. Could it be that man descended from Star World? Thinking of this, the two then halted their pace, gazing far into the distance. A man in the sky covered with a yellow robe leisurely descended. Seeing his legs stand on empty space, without a sword, that was shockingly the characteristic of a supervoid cultivator. Xian Jinzi, Ancestor Longevity, and the other ancestors showed shock when they saw this. They absolutely did not expect that besides the Rock Demon King, they also could see a supervoid cultivator. Envious of the East coldly snorted, soaring high into the air until he stood chest to chest with that yellow-robed man. Your servant is Zhong Qi. The queen has some matters and is far unable to welcome you, having your servant come receive her guests. Ladies and gentlemen of the Azure Dragon Territory who have turned up uninvited, your servant now asks that you quickly return. Zhong Qi opened his mouth to speak, that face cold as a boulder, without emotion, but his tone nevertheless had a sort of invisible pressure squeezing everyone present. The supercluster ancestors all were pale in the face, not daring to breathe, and the galaxy cultivators had already fallen to the ground, paralyzed. Let alone that supervoid cultivation was only a realm higher than supercluster, this simply was a fundamental leap. Supercluster cultivators only turned the star energy in their bodies from a river into a sea, making star energy evidently seem more resounding and powerful, but it was at supervoid stage that it would make the body's star energy completely dissolve into a whole with one's body. The body's star energy would then become nothingness, just like the starry skies above. From the perspective of any cultivators with weak willpower, a supervoid cultivator every word and action was comparable to a magic weapon. Lady Snake Scorpion is truly formidable. Does she even have a character of your level serving her, sire? Envious of the East laughed aloud, releasing an imposing air. Gecko Cliff's demi-kings and demi-soldiers each were drenched in sweat, stepping back 3 chi, the grandeur of the 2 supervoid cultivators secretly crossed swords, their spiritual mights bearing down on the other, matchlessly tyrannical that the others simply were unable to get involved. What is the background of this Zhong Qi? Never heard of him. Xian Jinzi's tone was grim. Envious of the East, we had best quickly destroy the forbid dance, otherwise the moment the Rock Demon King comes, we certainly will be unable to escape. The Red Lotus Fairy coldly smiled. The Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li was of extreme speed. To think of escape was to dream. Envious of the East also knew things were grave. Although the opponent was also a supervoid cultivator, his own side also had 4 supercluster ancestors, after all. Each had extraordinary abilities and if they truly battled, Envious of the East was not afraid. If fellow Zhong Qi wishes to obstruct us, then Envious is much obliged. Envious of the East then made a move, and more than 100 flying swords appeared around his body. These flying swords formed a sword array that shot towards Zhong Qi with a whoosh. A supervoid cultivator's sword chant was not at all ordinary, as expected. Just when Envious of the East acted, the Su Xing several thousand meters away could sense a sort of churning feeling in his stomach. Those 100 flying swords practically was just like a galaxy hanging upside down and pouring as a torrent. This sort of terrifying imposing aura was not achievable even if Su Xing used the miraculous Bodhi tree. Zhongqi raised his yellow robes, and he flashed yellow from head to foot. Immediately, the entire sky flooded with yellow light. Dark yellow rays instantly swelled violently, spreading in all directions frantically in a quick expansion. Instantly, Gecko Cliff was enveloped by the yellow light. Envious of the East turned the imposing air of his flying sword scalding, successively attacking this shrouded Gecko Cliff. Envious of the East stared at Zhongqi, not daring to be careless. After Zhongqi's face showed an abnormal expression, his figure flashed and disappeared in the light barrier without a trace. When they saw this situation, everyone naturally knew that Zhongqi made his move. Each fully used their abilities. That Xianzhenzi greatly released the green light on his body, then shouting, his long robes floated, and the originally settled mist began to surge. Like before, another more than 100 flying swords brandished their fangs as they pounced towards the sky. Unexpectedly, they could resist that madly expanding yellow light for a time without falling. When Ancestor Longevity, Queen Lady of Ice and the Red Lotus Fairy saw this, they at once did not hesitate in the slightest. Each enshrouded themselves with a multicolored barrier. Ancestor Longevity's 99 Rebirth Swords, 2, the Queen Lady of Ice's Ice Spirit Snow Soul Swords, 3, and the Red Lotus Fairy's Red Lotus Karma Fire Swords, made a beeline to attack the yellow light. Besides flying swords and abilities, the supercluster cultivators alternated magic weapons. Zhongqi's yellow light was just like the canopy of heaven pressing down on them. Everyone did not dare easily let his yellow light pressure them. When these supercluster cultivators used their flying swords, bright and multicolored sword lights twisted without stop under the yellow canopy. That yellow covering was just like a quagmire, for the supercluster cultivators' flying swords were abnormally challenged. Only Envious of the East's primordial boundless swords, 5, broke the light like a shuttle, and under the force of their flying swords. Zhongqi had been forced to reveal his figure. Envious of the East patted his astral bag, taking out a treasure mirror of purple light. It released an oddly thick pillar of multicolored light. Unexpectedly, it instantly flooded open the light screen in front of them, hardly hesitating to cover Zhongqi. Zhongqi's pupils glowed, and his yellow robes fluttered. The yellow light canopy immediately burst out and released a dazzling ray of light that poured down in torrents to cover everyone within. Those galaxy stage cultivators let out screams the instant the yellow light touched them. Without the least bit of capability to resist, their whole bodies were burned into ghastly skeletons by a sort of yellow fire. The other supercluster ancestors were greatly astonished, however, they were sect founders. Naturally, they had the means to protect their lives. At once, all of the supercluster cultivators gathered in the middle back-to-back, forming a plum blossom-shaped defensive array. Afterwards, they each took out their own defensive treasures, becoming a ball of divine light that flickered incessantly. Unexpectedly, they had instantly spread no less than 5 or 6 layers of concentrated barriers. This is the Golden Crow's divine flame. 6. Envious of the East, hurry, and kill him. The ancestors anxiously shouted one after another. These sect ancestral masters that could discern that this yellow light's origins unexpectedly were of the Golden Crow's divine flame immediately lost the color in their faces. The Golden Crow's divine flame was an immemorial legendary flame that the three-legged Golden Crow had once spat out. Its might was shocking, able to burn the sky and ruin the earth. Seeing that their opponent unexpectedly used the Golden Crow's divine flame to forge an enormous light barrier was a trick unprecedented in the Azure Dragon territory. Envious of the East wrinkled his brow. Green light flashed, and a layer of green divine light protected him within. Then, he raised his hand, flicking his fingers at the light canopy. 100 green sword chi about a zhang in length crisscrossed and violently shot forth, breaking the yellow light canopy without any difficulty. Zhongqi sneered. His arms suddenly moved, and countless talons of Golden Crow's divine flame produced a chi sound that broke the air as they surrounded Envious of the East. Envious of the East explosively shouted, and the divine light greatly swelled. His figure forged towards the talons, a grim expression flashing across his face. One arm clashed with the talons and easily danced. Immediately, it was even more intensive than the Golden Crow's divine flame talons. A dark green ray with an even sharper air-splitting noise erupted in front of Zhongqi. Both sides slightly touched. Envious of the East's sword light easily ripped apart the Golden Crow's talon shadows, and also flicking, the flying swords became a light and shadow that attacked Zhongqi. Zhongqi's expression moved, and the flying swords exploded in front of him. A formless light screen blocked Envious of the East's sword chant. Go! Zhongqi lightly pointed at Envious of the East. That yellow light canopy enshrouding 1,000 meters suddenly compressed violently towards Envious of the East. Envious of the East's layers of barriers suddenly burned, the speed at which every single layer broke clearly visible to the naked eye. Can you only use the Golden Crow's divine flame? Envious of the East expressionlessly said. And what about it? Zhongqi calmly said. A yellow light flashed across his eyes, and the yellow light transformed. Envious of the East's flying swords were immediately broken. Then you can just prepare to die at this place. Envious of the East shouted. A block of jade floated above his head, and pinching together hand seals, a spiritual pressure suddenly discharged. His hands formed seals, and his divine sense at the same time connected to all of the flying swords, suddenly initiating the sword array of a sword chant. A shocking scene appeared. Countless threads of green light flashed eerie green rays, intermittently appearing all around. Their flickering was silent, completely lacking a pattern, as they slowly closed in on the center, trapping Zhongqi within. Zhongqi's face turned grim. Only at this time did he realize that he was caught in the opponent's trap, unexpectedly falling into the middle of a sword array. His shock was brief, and he waved his hands. Several bursts of Golden Crow's divine flame became Golden Crow saber rays that crisscrossed and shot out, slashing straight towards the place Envious of the East was at. After several thousand green sword threads simultaneously appeared and flashed consecutively several times, the Golden Crow's divine light instantly had been cut into countless pieces, becoming specks of divine light, disappearing without a trace. Zhongqi was stunned, showing a grave expression. Immediately afterwards, he coldly grunted. His forehead overflowed with cold sweat, and the 1,000 meters Golden Crow's light canopy concentrated to a single point, becoming a supernatural bird that emerged, the immemorial three-legged Golden Crow. The three-legged Golden Crow's 3 legs aimed at a single direction exceptionally slowly and scratched. Light and flame dazzled the eyes, and the entire gecko cliff collapsed and disintegrated, tottering on the edge of complete destruction. The imposing air of the two supervoid cultivators' confrontation was truly terrifying. The three-legged Golden Crow consecutively slashed several green strands, firing off at several dozens of zhang away. The result was that a densely packed sword light appeared in front of him. After it had been broken several chi, the three-legged Golden Crow finally greatly reduced its flame and howled in grief as it collapsed. Zhongqi at last revealed a shocked expression. So amazing! Su Xing actually breathed in. Even if they were separated by several thousand meters, the imposing showdown between the supervoid cultivators seemingly pressed down upon him. The heavens and earth became incomparably heavy. Originally, Su Xing felt he could easily destroy supercluster ancestors, and he even thought that somewhat certain of the supervoid cultivator. This was the first time he had seen a confrontation of supervoid cultivators, and his heart honestly was shocked into a perilous situation. He felt that certainty was practically a joke. Perhaps before he had even acted, Envious of the East could raise a hand and destroy him. A cultivator of this sort of star energy and nothingness of heaven and earth ability actually was too terrifying. Su Xing also roused from his shock. Sio, have you any certainty confronting a supervoid cultivator? Quite possibly. Wu Xiao was not at all like Su Xing, showing that much shock. In the perspective of the harm star, Super Void was indeed powerful, but as long as she possessed the white and black unicorn tiger, so long as she used her dark rank move, in addition to her 3-star destined weapon, she still had a chance in battle. However, killing him was not too likely. Do star generals not originate from Star World? Legend says that past transforming star of annihilation stage, these Super Void cultivators count as nothing. Pensier chuckled. The Vermilion Bird territory was very mystical about the legends of the star generals, and naturally were not clear that the star generals needed to grow. Wu Xiao sneered. Let us quickly go to the Jade Alum Palace. Su Xing shook his head. Under Pensier's guidance, Su Xing and Pensier entered a narrow winding road into the Gecko Cliff. This trail was considerably concealed, and only those with a Demi-King's token could pass through. Quite fortunately, Su Xing had obtained a Demi-King token from Demi-King Golden Wings in their prior confrontation. As it happened, it could be used. For the sake of not inadvertently alerting the enemy, Wu Xiao remained outside and did not follow. Watching the Super Void cultivators' confrontation, Wu Xiao seemingly was even more interested. Outside of Five Poisons Mountain, on a nameless peak. A woman with a blue and white long skirt gently swaying where she stood currently looked at the far-off Poison Mountain enveloped in toxic gas. Her clear, lake water-like pupils made others unable to fathom her. Elder Sister Qingxi, could it be you still want to go to Five Poisons Mountain with designs on that 10,000-year gu? Behind her, a girl with green hair leaning a wooden staff on her shoulder giggled. Jingji, too, that 10,000-year gu actually is a pretty good creature. Qingxi slightly smiled. So long as Elder Sister desires it, Longkue shall go help Elder Sister seize it. Another tall-built, dark-skinned woman spoke. Hearing her words, living goddess of lightning Wang Jingji twitched her lips, muttering, truly a metal bull, nothing but violence and murder. Five Poisons Mountain has the Five Poisons Forbid Dance, it is simply impossible to go there. Longkue did not pay her any attention and treated Wang Jingji as heir. Then we wait until the Five Poisons Mountain's Forbid Dance break, and then we go. Qingxi's face still hung a relaxed smile, as before. Inferior star living goddess of lightning heard an inconceivable thing, how will it break? Right now, the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators should already have passed the Five Poisons and have encountered that Golden Crow of the White Tiger Territory. The Forbid Dance will soon break. At that time, we will board the Astral Treasure and go. Qingxi seemed to be speaking of something to be expected, but in Wang Jingji's ears, this sounded unbelievable. The Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators were assaulting Five Poisons Mountain, something that Wang Jingji had not heard of. How are you this certain? Who would not want the 10,000-year gu? What Qingxi understood clearly was even more profound than what Wang Jingji was able to, and she also knew many of Falling Dragon Mountain's secrets. Wang Jingji seemed to understand yet also not. In the end, she no longer felt like thinking, in any case, find a solution yourself, Sister Qingxi. If you are to go to Five Poisons Mountain, this young woman certainly will not accompany you. Qingxi smiled. Aha! Of all people, a scholarly youth gazed at the divine fire and jade light 1,000 meters away, showing slight surprise. Never expected Super Void cultivators to be this incredible. Just in battle alone, a galaxy cultivator could never draw near. The youth twitched his lips, carrying a green net. If Envious of the East were present, he would definitely be shocked because this youth was none other than the one that had been killed by his slap, Xie Chang'an. However, at this time, Xie Chang'an was alive and well, full of vigor, not at all like a man that had been killed. That oaf Envious of the East definitely would not have thought that Five Poisons Mountain unexpectedly would have other Super Void cultivator besides the Rock Demon King. Xie Chang'an chuckled. His tone had an indescribable resentfulness. Previously, when Envious of the East suddenly struck him, if it was not for his previously swallowing a 9 turns life replenishing pill, 3, to enter a state of fake death, that slap honestly would have been the death of him. If word got out that a star master that had contracted a 5-tiger general had been killed by a smack, that honestly would be the world's best joke. This highness next time will avenge this slap. Xie Chang'an snorted, brimming with a sort of disdain for supervoid cultivators. A figure emerged from his side. A woman wearing armor appeared, with a cloud bun and the beauty of a flower. Her eyes were very dignified, seemingly a naturally occurring sort of general's might that made other unable to but acknowledge their allegiance. Chang'an, do not speak any more nonsense. Wu Song and her star master already have infiltrated the Jade Alam Palace. By the time the supervoid cultivators finish fighting, we will not have a chance. If you wish to take revenge, do so afterwards. The woman was dignified and strict, and her tone had a sort of resolution that could not be resisted. The relationship between a star master and star general was usually that of a master and servant, but this woman nevertheless inverted things, being arrogant and bossy towards her star master. Xie Chang'an inevitably nodded. Shuang'er, what you said is right. This highness truly did not expect that the renowned Wu Song unexpectedly would also sign a star duel covenant. If even Lin Chong has signed a contract, what is there surprising about Wu Song signing one as well? Shuang'er flatly said. Do you have a chance of success against her? Wu Song still has the white and black unicorn tiger. Xie Chang'an anxiously asked. Perhaps Su Xing would not have thought that during the time he and Wu Xiao walked a remote path that they would be discovered by the Xie Chang'an who had been faking his death. He felt that something was odd, so he followed Su Xing and Wu Xiao, discovering their secret. Seeing the two battle, from the bottom of his heart, he thought Wu Xiao was Su Xing's star general. Your servant will stall Wu Song. You infiltrate the Jade Alam Palace. Your opponent is only Galaxy early stage, so you must not let your servant be disappointed. Shuang'er warned, if you actually encounter danger, then flee. Your servant shall not blame you. Xie Chang'an laughed heartily, and how could Chang'an ever let Shuang'er be disappointed? Do not be too full of talk. Do you think the man that could make Wu Song sign a contract would be ordinary? Shuang'er looked askance at him. Harm star Wu Song's star position in the previous generation was overlord of the star duels. This generation's was under the halo of the last ones. According to the Harm star's style, she could not possibly sign a contract, but on the contrary, that pilgrim Wu Song had an intimate relationship with a man. If that man were said to have no extraordinary aspects, Xie Chang'an himself was unwilling to believe so. However, Xie Chang'an was not afraid. His star general similarly had importance and fame not at all inferior to Wu Song's, and to be able to strike her fancy, Xie Chang'an had quite the amount of assets. He was the prince of the Azure Dragon Territory's Cold Tang Kingdom. 5. Although the Cold Tang Kingdom was not worth comparison to the great Liang dynasty, the entire nation of the Cold Tang Kingdom had secretly prepared and saved for the star duels for a very long time. As a small kingdom, their greatest aspect was their anonymity. They were far unlike the Great Liang, the Most High Path and other large kingdoms and sects, each and every one of their moves being curbed. This also gave Xie Chang'an a very big chance. After the start of the first phase, heavenly and earthly stars, when the other star generals began to move for 1 star, he already enough capital to allow a star general to promote to 2 star. Then your servant will go see that Wu Song. Wu Xiao stood atop a knoll gazing at the far-off rays of light in the horizon. She saw the yellow-robed man Zhong Qi fling his robes, his entire body transforming into an enormous two-legged golden crow. He burned Gecko Hill into a fire beacon reaching the sky. Those demi-kings and demi-soldiers had not yet mobilized before they were burnt to ash by Zhong Qi. So it turned out that the golden crow transformed into a man's true spirit. No wonder it is so tyrannical. Wu Xiao looked pensively. Demon beasts were everywhere in the White Tiger territory. Some of them refining into people was not news, but compared to the Vermilion Bird territory's demi-kings, they were even more worthy of the word demonic. 6. Demon beasts transformed into human shape became true spirits, possessing their own life caste powers cultivators could not match. The immemorial golden crow was a legend that had 3 legs, however, Zhongqi's transformation with 2 seemed to not have reached completion. However, the white tiger territory's true spirit running to the vermilion bird territory and subordinating himself to Lady Snake Scorpion made Wu Xiao somewhat confused. The white and black unicorn tiger beside her roared, as if its will to fight was stirred by the 2-legged golden crow. Suddenly at this time, the white and black unicorn tiger turned its head, making a gloomy roar, its eyes shooting a chill. Wu Xiao stroked the white and black unicorn tiger, hinting at it to be calm. Then, she indifferently said, "Why does whichever little sister not come out for a look? Worthy of the name white and black unicorn tiger. Truly, it makes your servant completely lack the opportunity for a sneak attack." A laugh full of daring resounded. Shuang'er walked onto the hill. Wu Xiao looked at her. Slight rays of light appeared in her eyes, and casting a glance at her, she flatly said, "Little sister allows her star master to go rush into the Jade Alum Palace alone, is that good?" Little sister. Little sister Wu Song, this address is certainly wrong. Shuang'er's tone was completely imposing. Her arms shook, and 2 long whips, 7, appeared from her wrists. These whips were segmented like bamboo, soft and limpid. The entire body of the whip in her left hand was a light gold, brimming with a simple and elegant air. The whip in her right hand was like snow and frost, emitting a depressing chilliness. The 2 kinds of completely contrasting imposing airs nevertheless was an abnormal mixture. Wind and moon unmatched. 8. Wu Xiao was stunned. Su Xing at this moment was currently following along with Pensier through spiraling bluestone platforms going upwards. Every step was towards a higher place, and his face was full of a flabbergasted expression. Due to the great battle between the supervoid cultivators, the entire Jade Alum Palace was already deserted, all of the people inside drawn away. With Demi-King Pensier at hand, not even the slightest hair obstructed them. They had not entered the Jade Alum Palace's winding corridor for long, when he found step after step of unending bluestone staircase. He walked enough that after he took a break, he still had not reached any sign of the end. Su Xing's curiosity was greatly aroused. Was the Jade Alum Palace unexpectedly constructed at such a high place? Embracing the doubt in his heart, Su Xing calmed his heart and followed the steps, calmly clambering up little by little. Where is that 10,000-year gu at? Slave servant does not know. The queen constructed 5 gu halls at 5 Poisons Valley, and among them one has the 10,000-year gu. The other 4 are all death traps. The queen was also anxious someone would spy on her that she would pretend to have puzzles. Pensier alluringly replied. Her eyes rolled around wildly, darting around, as if she was thinking of something. For master to have designs on the 10,000-year gu, slave servant but feels that is completely unsensible. Pensier covered her mouth and chuckled. How so? Su Xing was not inclined to comment. Pensier said, to control the 10,000-year gu, if you are not one of illustrious powers, then you would need superb gu control arts. Those Azure Dragon territory cultivators do not know whose spell they are receiving, yet they unexpectedly wish to control the 10,000-year gu. Truly, they are dreaming. Even if the queen does not obtain it, do not think that others can obtain it. I am free to follow propriety, no need to be talkative. Su Xing coldly glanced at her, hardly speaking. Pensier thought that Su Xing was obstinately persisting in error or that he was counting on something, however, thinking that Su Xing could rely on galaxy early-stage cultivation to control her, that power indeed was formidable. It could not be said for certain that he perhaps had some trump card. This Star Master truly was unbelievable. Could it be he was a character of that legendary transforming star of annihilation grade? Continuing on upwards approximately more than another 100 zhang, after the twists and turns of the bluestone steps, the 2 finally spotted a large door at the end of these long bluestone stairs. Immediately, his vigor rose, and Su Xing quickened his pace. After he turned past a corner, an ordinary square-shaped exit was before him. Following the exit out, he indistinctly gazed out. The scene outside made Su Xing's expression change. The Jade Alum Palace was constructed grandly and abundantly beautiful. Its 4 ramparts blazed with light. Entering the main hall, which nevertheless was quite uncharacteristic, with dark yellow skies and grey fog. Although the palace's grandeur was still discernible, it still was sprinkled with an indistinct sort of overcast and unclear appearance. Past those dark and gloomy light rays, Su Xing saw this hall's decorations were abnormally strange. Countless spider designs were drawn on the walls, the thin lines wandering all over the ramparts, from the ceiling straight to the floor. In particular were the eyes of the spider designs, a green that was like day and night, a red that was completely bloody, a purple that was wise, and a black that was deep as a pool. At first glance, it was full of a chilly intent. This place is... Su Xing did not bat an eye. Pensier smiled. Master, this place is Ponsi Hall, one of the 5 poisons palaces that the Jade Alum Palace established. That Gu Hall is under one of the halls. Slave servant is Demi-King Ponsi and can only bring master to Ponsi Hall without obstruction. Slave servant also asks master to not regard her as an outsider. Su Xing sized up Ponsi Hall and nodded. Then you know how to reach the other 4 halls? The other 4 halls are interlinked. To find one, slave servant fears will require a lot of time. However, slave servant has a way. Master, please enter slave servant's chambers. Pensier alluringly smiled, speaking with an endlessly amorous sort of tone. Su Xing nodded, walking inside with great strides. There were dark and gloomy gases rising spirals, like mist and smoke, yet not at all toxic. However, it concealed the main hall very well. What cultivation method do you practice in the main hall? This fog appears not too ordinary. Su Xing played with a plume of mist as he spoke. Right. Slave servant has always cultivated the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web in Ponsi Hall. Pensier delicately walked to a book cabinet, hanging an odd smile. Just at this time, Ponsi Hall's mist abruptly rolled towards Su Xing like it had substance. Then, these mists transformed into the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web as it completely wrapped up Su Xing's 4 limbs. In the center of the main hall, an array point activated, and the spiders on the walls also spat a myriad of spider silk, trapping Ponsi Hall with the webs. A crack was practically invisible. Pensier, what are you doing? Su Xing's voice sunk. Pensier burst out in laughter, and an out-of-character viciousness rose. Master, you truly were not careful, unexpectedly daring to abandon your star general and step into the Ponsi main hall with slave servant. This place's Ponsi array can trap divine intent. Now, your god's sealing plate must be unusable. Su Xing moved his arms and legs. As expected, the Ponsi array was powerful, completely trapping his body. Even his divine intent had seemingly been struck onto the web and was incapable of moving. A chill emerged in Pensier's eyes. A tiny galaxy cultivator unexpectedly dares to control this king, truly reckless. Today, Pensier shall properly serve master. Pensier's lips formed a hook. The multitude of spider webs seemingly dissolved through her body, unexpectedly not hindering her in the slightest. An enticing charm was hung in Pensier's eyes. Her steps were like flowers, graceful and elegant. At the same time, she removed that tiny bodice, and her perfectly round jade breasts bounced out. That bright red was gentle and plump. Pensier's upper body was completely naked. Master, please properly offer your essence energy to slave servant. Slave servant shall let master experience ecstasy even at death's door. You truly brought about your own end. Su Xing coldly looked at Pensier, somewhat with pity, somewhat with disapproval. Pensier's alluring looks immediately cooled. Falling into slave servant's Ponsi array can be compared to a butterfly falling into a spider web. Your final struggles are useless. The one who brought about his own end is you. Su Xing's eyes somewhat showed a bone-chilling cold intent, as if he was sneering at her betrayal. Pensier was very puzzled. Could it be that he was counting on the Star General's help? But that Wu Xiao had been stopped outside the Jade Alum Palace and was basically incapable of entering. Wait, Pensier suddenly recalled a fact. Star Masters and Star Generals that signed a contract could enter the Star Nest. If Wu Xiao had wanted to enter the Jade Alum Palace, she would only need to enter the Star Nest to do so. But Pensier's heart shivered. As if for the sake of verifying her thinking, a brief earth-shattering whistle sounded from her back. The speed was extremely quick, and when Pensier heard this sound, she had no way of dodging. Her back suffered a punch, and her bones shattered. Pensier screamed, nearly fainting. Pensier deserved to be called a demi-king, for when she staggered forwards, she continuously urged her magic energy. A lump of spider silk promptly rolled out like a wave. The person that attacked from her back was like a phantom death god. Pensier only saw two clumps of lights, one cold and one hot, circulating upon the opponent's face and directly break the spider silk. Her palm chops fell, and Pensier's shoulder blades were immediately chopped apart like wooden logs. Pensier screamed in pain, but she overall could be considered to have rapidly returned to her senses. She dodged the serial attacks. A Star General. Pensier looked at the woman in front of her and shouted in disbelief. The newcomer wore a maid dress, revealing a stretch of her snowy back and thighs. Her shoulders had a dark red tattoo. Her head wore a flower crown, and her eyes were like vermilion. Her right hand was in front while her left hand was behind in a cold and detached killing posture. In particular were those fists adorned in yin and yang, with two fishes circulating, and two stars each shined. How could you appear here? Pensier shouted. Betrayal of master cannot be forgiven. Each word of the maid brimmed with an ice-cold deadly assertion. She was Yanizhen. Pensier only felt as if she had fallen into an icehouse, her entire body cold to the extreme. You dare to be impudent before the Pensier ray. 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web. Pensier yelled in fury. She opened her mouth and spat out a white spider web. Yanizhen's figure flashed, like an afterimage flitting across water waves. She easily sidestepped Pensier's 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities spider silk. Once again, Yanizhen drew close to Pensier. Pensier's terrifying spider web seemingly bundled up tight. This time, it was nevertheless broken through easily by Yanizhen. The skillful star wanderer Yan Qing's body was like a butterfly raising a death cloud of dust, flashing past the spider web's encirclement. By the time Pensier returned to her senses, Yanizhen had already grasped her arm with one hand and was already violently pummeling her with the other. Amidst the ear-piercing bone-fracturing sounds, Yanizhen's hands were like they were overturning flowers, continuously flashing across Pensier's body. When the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web had been broken, Pensier completely lost her normal evasion response. Yanizhen's face from start to finish appeared cold and detached. Her two hands contained immense strength, and under such close-up attacks, Pensier's spider silk had become just like decorations. Her towering breasts had been beaten full of wounds. Without a bit of sympathy, the Yanizhen in battle was ice-cold just like a fiend. Through the sounds of continuous strikes, Yanizhen continuously moved around her. By the time Pensier finally understood she had to retreat, her mind already did not have sufficient strength to command her body's movements. This was Pensier's first taste of the feeling of fear. She raised her head. Her entire body's internal organs, bones, and meridians had been ripped apart. Whimpering, it seemed she wanted to beg for forgiveness, but following Yanizhen snapping her neck behind her, Pensier's lifeless eyes stared blankly at Su Xing. Afterwards, she softly collapsed onto the ground like ooze, and only then did her breath cease. Following Pensier's death, Pensihal's magic circle lost its support. The dark and gloomy fog dispersed, and there was only a bleak sight to behold. Master! Yanizhen's eyes had slight concern. I'm fine. Su Xing sized up this Pensihal. He looked at the Ponzi array in this hall with complete interest. This demi-king Ponzi's spider silk ability indeed was somewhat outstanding. If it was given to the randomly appearing and disappearing Shi Yuan to use, that actually would be a great trump card. Thinking of this, Su Xing used his divine intent in Ponzi Hall to probe around to see if there was a usable place. A spider web fell into Su Xing's palm. This was Poncier's 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web. Storing it away, Su Xing said, "Let's go find Lady Snake Scorpion now. We have to obtain Xie Zhen's blood as soon as possible." Although the 10,000-year gu was enticing, Su Xing's top priority still was to cure Gongsun Huang of the gu poison. The closer he was to the Xie twins, the Gongsun Huang in the star nest was seemingly weaker. Yan Yizhen nodded, her vermilion pupils a hidden and very deep self-blame. Su Xing knew from a look that Yan Yizhen had sensed the trouble that Lin Yingmei's side had encountered. Perhaps she currently felt guilty she had left without saying goodbye to them. Walking over, he patted her shoulders. His tone was soft and consoling, "No need to blame yourself. With the perfect pair of Yingmei and Xinjie, there won't be any danger. Slave servant understands." Yan Yizhen avoided Su Xing's line of sight. Su Xing carefully contemplated. Demi-King Pensier said that the Gu Hall was among one of the 5 halls of the Jade Alum Palace. Its whereabouts were known only by Lady Snake Scorpion alone. Going and searching each one clearly was too late, and according to the safest psychological actions of someone alone, everyone liked to put unknown dangers under their control in order to feel relief. Su Xing roughly guessed that such a careful person as Lady Snake Scorpion could not possibly place the 10,000-year gu in the imperial halls the other demi-kings cultivated in. In this case, although the Jade Alum Palace was very big, there was only one sort of possibility. It was Lady Snake Scorpion's imperial palace, Twin Stars Pavilion. Capturing several maids, he very easily found out the position of Lady Snake Scorpion's imperial hall. Very quickly, he stood on a white jade bridge approximately 10 zhang seemingly floating without support high in the air. This bridge was exceptionally exquisite, engraved with dragons and drawn with phoenixes. It led to a hexagonal building. This building had a height of more than 30 zhang, level piled upon level. Its whole body was constructed from carved jade. It sparkled, appearing to be like an immortal's palace. Furthermore, above the pavilion's entrance, a golden approximately zhang-sized board was hung. Upon it was written 3 large ancient characters, Twin Stars Pavilion. This was the pavilion that got its name from Lady Snake Scorpion contracting the twin stars. When Su Xing stepped onto the jade bridge, he attentively looked over the building from time to time. Although this pavilion was not large, the inside emitted an astonishing spiritual influence that fluctuated incomprehensibly. Furthermore, there was a layer of faint white fluorescence that enveloped the pavilion within. It seemed this place had also been arranged with an extremely formidably forbid dance array. Seeing this, Su Xing was even more convinced that Lady Snake Scorpion was at this place. He brought out the miraculous Bodhi tree and swiped. Its divine light rippled, and the white luster broke apart. Su Xing and Little Yi seized the chance and hesitated no longer as their figures leapt forwards, penetrating the light screen and entering the Twin Stars Pavilion. Before them was a several hundred square meters imperial palace, with row upon row of approximately 1 zhang high circular jade platforms piled up. The sizes of these jade platforms differed, sparkling white because of the fine jade they were made from. These jade platforms had every sort of refined household utensil placed upon them. These utensils emitted black, red, and purple gases that were discernible as highly toxic from just a look. On one path of the imperial palace was a magnificent screen of a snake and scorpion. There was also a hazy hanging screen with tassels. Indistinctly, he could see a large bed that was beautifully decorated and was considerably luxurious. His divine intent lightly explored, but it was plainly visible that not a single person was in the Twin Stars Pavilion. Su Xing pulled aside the tasseled curtain. The bedding on the bed had been neatly made. Looking at the circular bed, he did not find any place that was odd. Master, might it not be here? Yan Yizhen looked at the absolutely empty Twin Stars Pavilion and knit her brow. Those maids said that once Lady Snake Scorpion entered the Twin Stars Pavilion, she did not show herself again. Su Xing muttered to himself. Looking up and down the Twin Stars Pavilion, according to Lady Snake Scorpion's cautious nature, she probably constructed a secret mechanism in the room. After scouring around, Su Xing retracted his gaze to follow those rows of jade platforms and slowly walked over. Skimming over the decorations upon the jade platforms, he tried to see whether or not he could find anything. Generally speaking, if there was a mechanism, porcelain, decorations, and the like were the most suspect. 2. Yan Yizhen also looked around the Twin Stars Pavilion. A short while later, Su Xing had not found the entrance to any secret passage but actually found a few scrolls about the 5 poisons forbid dance. Inside was recorded in detail how Lady Snake Scorpion exploited the 5 Poisons Mountains geography to construct an unprecedented forbid dance. It made Su Xing, who looked at it, unable to help but sigh that she truly was a genius. However, the 5 Poisons Mountain was about to be broken, and Su Xing did not have too great an interest. Master! Little E inside the room suddenly called out. What did you find? Su Xing walked in. Yan Yizhen looked at that fragrant bed of the Lady Snake Scorpions, then pressed a chrysanthemum flower, revealing a secret passage. Su Xing blushed in shame. He had actually made things out to be too complicated and had never thought the mechanism would be this simple. The Twin Stars Pavilion suddenly rocked violently. Passing through the window, Su Xing clearly saw that the 5 Poisons Mountains poison fog was rapidly diluting like it had been washed away by rain. His heart immediately shivered, for the Super Void Cultivator's battle honestly was world-shaking. The 5 Poisons Mountains final Gecko Cliff Array point should already have broken. At this time, 5 Poisons Mountain was comparable to a cake that had lost its cover. Those founders definitely would fly over like houseflies. Su Xing was too late to go care how the Super Void Cultivator's battle progressed. He called out to Yan Yizhen and went down that secret passageway. I wonder how CO is doing, Su Xing muttered to himself. When he was this concerned about Harm Star Pilgrim Wusong, those supercluster cultivators were also unable to deal with her. Shaking his head, Su Xing followed Yan Yizhen down. Su Xing absolutely would not have thought that the enemy Wu Xiao at this time would be far more frightening than a supercluster cultivator by several levels. The 2 whips of completely different imposing auras condensed the same sort of baleful aura. Even if the Liangshan continent's most clever viper was only so, the whip swung over with a whiz, flying up and down together. Wu Xiao's double-headed sword blocked back and forth, but the long whip struck with an air-shattering force. The sharp clashing sounds directly made Wu Xiao's attacks result in failure. The wind and moon unmatched whips. 3. Unexpected. Unexpected. Wu Xiao's left hand wiped her cheek, a trace of blood appearing on her snow-white skin, but this did not make Wu Xiao feel dismayed at all. On the contrary, she showed a kind of excitement, a kind of bloodthirsty excitement. Unexpectedly encountering Hu Yanzhua. That dignified woman in front of her astonishingly was the ranked 8th prestige star, the Hu Yanzhua, Hu Yanshuang, 5, of the name, Double Clubs. Hu Yanshuang's brows carried a general's manner. Her arms trembled, and the wind and moon unmatched whips in one hand drew out wine flower while the other swung snow moon. 3 stars circulated on the whips, very eye-catching. Your servant had also not expected that Wu Song would be very intimate with a man. Hu Yanshuang boldly laughed. What happened with this generation's star duels? Lin Chong signed a contract, and even you, Wu Song, seem to have found a soulmate. Humph. Wu Xiao disdainfully replied and raised her noble frost demonic lotus as she rushed onwards, with an abundance of spirit and power. Hu Yanshuang's hands clutched the whips. She focused all of her body's power to her wrists and crossed the long whips. The swift action jolted out a metallic ringing. Wu Xiao's body slightly lowered, her long sword slashing at Hu Yanshuang. Hu Shuang was but one of Liangshan's 5 tiger generals, and her martial force was comparable to Wu Xiu's. Lightly sliding backwards, that long whip raised a phantom that whipped ahead. Tai. 6. The whip's windlight swept across Wu Xiu's cheek, and a strand of hair was unexpectedly lifted by the wind-breaking sound and severed. Double clubs. Hu Shuang acted without the slightest bit of mercy. Although Wu Xiu did not need her to have any sort of pity. Wu Xiu's slash on the contrary erased Hu Shuang's advance, the thunderbolt of a power that fell short of the years. Hu Shuang only felt Wu Xiu's phantoms overlapped, seemingly still where she was, before Wu Xiu was already in front of her. Hu Shuang's reactions were extremely quick, and her body's center of gravity suddenly lowered. With a somersault high into the sky, it made the noble frost demonic lotus ice-cold sword tip wipe close by her forehead. In the instant she flipped, Hu Shuang's double whips raised up and down. She seized the chance to directly whip towards Wu Xiu's front, with a lightning flash-like attack. Hu Shuang's speed was abnormally quick, and Wu Xiu at this time could not react. Slightly tilting her face, she avoided the whips, but the swift and severe wind of the whip's whole bodies slid past Wu Xiu's cheeks. That previous faint blood line darkened a bit, unexpectedly flogging the same part, frighteningly accurate. Whistle, spin. The other whip rolled over. Hu Yanzhua's double whips could be rated as having reached perfection. The supernaturally finely crafted whips had 9 segments, and their attack range contained several tens of meters. When the whips were moved, one attacked and the other defended, closely linked with one another. If it was any other martial force star general, if their consciousness faltered even a little, they would have already been whipped into honeycomb by Hu Shuang's wind and moon unmatched. However, attacking for so long only gave Wu Xiu an insignificant cut and nothing more. Little sister Wu Song still has 2 more bouts. Hu Shuang nodded, a sort of approving expression. Very good, very good. Wu Xiu was unangered and actually smiled. Her hand grasped noble frost demonic lotus. 5 tiger generals double clubs has not made your servant disappointed, superb. Wu Xiu's whole body burst with a murderous spirit, unexpectedly forcing Hu Shuang to nearly retreat. Even if it was so, that murderous aura still made Hu Shuang blink. She promptly raised the double whips, twisting towards Wu Xiu. Just at this time, a cold light flashed in her eyes. A bang. Wu Xiu grasped the noble frost demonic lotus and forcefully cut the air. Thud. A sound just like ice breaking open. A black demonic lotus flower seemingly had been cut down by this empty slash. When the attacking double whips attacked her, it was like they bumped into an incorporeal object and were successively shaken apart. The hill's ground seemingly had an earthquake. A black snow swept by, and long hair flittered. Hu Yanzhuo was startled, for Wu Xiu unexpectedly attacked to her front. Wherever she passed, the space had black lotuses with her. Yellow rank move. Tenli demonic lotus dragon slaying. Seeing this, Hu Shuang also was shocked. She did not dare to be careless, but worthy of being a fierce tiger of rank 8, the double whips violently were drawn back, wind flower leaf fall. 7. The moment Hu Shuang moved, it was also her most powerful yellow rank killing move. Her left hand's long whip, its momentum like layer upon layer of immense waves, each superior to the last, smashed the demonic lotuses to pieces. Wu Xiu did not dare have contempt for this. Her swelling sword cheese hurricane broke free of the noble frost demonic lotus and blew towards the long whip, bringing a tidal offensive. 2 immense powers struck each other in the wind with a boom. Explosions continuously rang, and the sword chi was defeated. The wind was continuously drawn open by wind and moon unmatched. Being sliced apart by noble frost demonic lotus, all of the vocabulary of martial force and star energy were twisted by the fickle winds into a thoroughly extreme interpretation. A cultivator only need to be nearby to be shattered by this hurricane when struck and would certainly be heavily wounded. Hu Shuang's whips were like two sharp weapons that continuously hindered Wu Xiao's close combat. A single breath's time. Or perhaps it was even longer, for several hundred moves had followed over in succession. In an instant, a star crest appeared on Hu Shuang's forehead along with her eyes flashing a star motif. Following the appearance of this phenomenon, Hu Shuang's imposing air originally equal to Wu Xiao's became sharply more dignified by several times. And strength heavily pressured her. Resonance. Wu Xiao's heart shivered, and the corner of her eye suddenly glanced a youth's figure. The Prestige Star's Star Master unexpectedly did not leave. Hu Shuang was apparently also somewhat surprised, but the 5 Tiger Generals' reactions were some level of speed. Her hands borrowed power, and the wind and moon unmatched whips leapt high, then swept heavily downwards. Only then did the closely following yellow rank move begin. The whip's power seriously was like rain, falling from the heavens. Yellow rank combo move. Wind flower leaf fall, snow moon without scar. How fierce the yellow rank move under resonance was. If it could be said that Prestige Star Huyenju's realm was previously somewhat lower than Wu Xiao's, following resonance, it had explosively swelled. A wind flower leaf fall, snow moon without scar, turned snow water into wind, a wind cold as a blade, cutting at Wu Xiao one at a time. Under this sort of unanticipated resonance, Wu Xiao basically was incapable of dodging. If she had been struck, even if she did not die, she could not avoid her vitality being greatly harmed. What a pity! Who Hu Shuang had bumped into was Wu Xiao, the Overlord Harm Star Pilgrim. The white and black unicorn tiger beside her all along did not move, for Wu Xiao originally had planned for a fair contest. However, seeing that the opponent resonated, she was no longer soft-hearted. The white and black unicorn tiger's white shadow scuttled to pounce at the Prestige Star's Star Master. Several of Xia Chang'an's lives were not enough for a 7th-rank spirit beast's attack. Hu Shuang gnashed her teeth. She shifted her steps to the side, the double whips still changing their attack direction. The whips wind hunted, thrashing the white and black unicorn tiger into a kitten not daring to draw near. You idiot! Did your servant not have you go to the Jade Alam Palace? What did you come here to do? Prestige Star Hu Shuang extremely angrily scolded, blocking in front of Xia Chang'an, the double whips assuming an attack stance. Wu Xiao actually did not have the interest to loot a burning house. As far as the proud heavenly stars were concerned, a battle to kill the other side's Star Master to defeat the Star General was simply very tedious, thoroughly boring. That forced attack just now made Wu Xiao somewhat depressed. The star crest on Xue Chang'an's forehead faded, his body frightened into a cold sweat. The harm star Wusong was more unwavering than he had thought. He had just begun resonance when the white and black unicorn tiger caught on to his presence. Worthy of being called a 7th-rank spirit beast, if it had not been for Hu Shuang's protection, his throat perhaps would have been bit open on the spot. Seeing that his aid was apparently counterproductive, Xia Chang'an was resentful. This highness also thought to help you, Shuanger. That Jade Alam Palace still has a lady snake scorpion inside that is enough for him to handle. This highness does not have any interest in the 10,000-year gu, and the safety of Shuanger is what is most important. In actuality, how would Xia Chang'an not have the mentality to kill Wusong? Using a Star Master to confront a Star General actually was too good an opportunity. Hearing Xia Chang'an's words, Hu Shuang did not express anything at all. Her expression did have slight satisfaction, for when Star Master and Star General signed a contract, any Star General would be very pleased to hear their Star Master speak words of steadfast loyalty. It is actually little sister Wusong's man who honestly lost face. Was it that he abandoned you? Or were you unwilling to follow him? Hu Shuang showed engrossed gossip. Less nonsense. Wu Xiao rushed forward. Just at this moment, an abnormal quaking came from Gecko Cliff. They caught sight of the faraway poison fog parting, the cliff collapsing, the earth shaking several times. Wu Xiao clearly sensed that the forbid dance had been broken. It seems those cultivators have finally broken the forbid dance. Hu Shuang arrogantly smiled, everything bodes ill for your man to go obtain that 10,000-year gu now. Wu Xiao's brows slightly knit together. She wondered whether it was because she heard that phrase, your man, or if it was truly because everything could possibly bode ill for Su Xing that she would show discontent and worry. Hu Shuang did not truly wish to continue fighting Wu Xiao to the death. Right now, the star duels were only in the second phase, far from reaching the time of life and death. Besides, her own white pig of a contractor Xia Chang'an had stupidly ran over to give Wu Song an extra snack. Hu Shuang knew that further fighting would not yield any good results. After all, Wu Song's star beast, the white and black unicorn tiger at the present stage, was honestly too outside the rules. The rock demon king should almost have arrived, and there is also the lady snake scorpion that contracted the Xia twins. Your man's troubles truly are many. Hu Shuang's voice was heavy as steel. Wu Xiao looked pensively at the prestige star and suddenly hooked on a sneer. Hu Yanzhua, what you said is very true. Then your servant shall eradicate a few unnecessary troubles for his sake. Hu Yanzhua's gaze lowered, for she heard Wu Xiao's malicious intentions. The harm star said nothing else and immediately launched an attack. Humph, as if your servant fears you. Hu Shuang was also angered. Her double whips flew, rolling out wind and waves cold as moonlight. The flexible whips wrapped around the noble frost demonic lotus. Wu Xiao spun the sword, rubbing aside the flexible whips. The white and black unicorn tiger at this time followed Wu Xiao and similarly pounced. The harm star was already clear that she would make this trouble of a Xia Chang'an leave from Five Poisons Mountain. Arrogant. The prestige star was dignified and impressive. Her right hand trembled, and that whip shook. It had been seemingly frozen, and the whip directly transformed into a solid club, forging on towards Wu Xiao. A water-mill club, and the other was still the windflower whip. Hu Shuang knew that to simultaneously restrict both Wu Xiao and the white and black unicorn tiger she could only engage in a two-front battle. She used the club to clash together with Wu Xiao's close combat double-headed sword, and that long whip was incessantly sweeping with dazzling efficacy, restricting the white and black unicorn tiger to stay away from Xia Chang'an's safe zone. In addition, Xia Chang'an already found it hard to believe they could proceed, brazenly activating resonance. The two's matching rapport forced Wu Xiao to have a new level of respect for them. When the metallic weapons rang, Wu Xiao's sword edge and Hu Shuang's wind and moon unmatched slamming into each other gave rise to enormous attacks that were cold enough the entire area shivered, and the fog wildly dispersed. Wu Xiao pulled her sword, her figure moved, and the airflow on the sword's edge condensed into a sharp sword light, ripping apart the air. A burst of air distortion. Regardless of whether it was speed, angle, power as well as determination, everything was perfect without exception. This slash was incomparably perfect. The Prestige Star's club was like a blade, also flawless. Under her Star Master's resonance, Hu Shuang's realm in martial force and star energy swelled. The sword light was disintegrated by her, as if it was fading light. When it appeared, it was dazzling. The club already struck towards Wu Xiao, easily breaking open her slash. Wu Xiao raised the sword to block this incoming attack. Hey! The noble frost demonic lotus trajectory suddenly changed, and Wu Xiao's easily linked several steps to approach in front of Hu Shuang's eyes. With a sparkle that broke the air, she violently stabbed. Not badly done, but it ends here. Wu Xiao lightly praised. Arrogant. Hu Shuang's momentum was great, displaying a tyrannical and powerful whip technique. Both sides bent, with everything going her way. In the blink of an eye, they consecutively had 50 bouts. Hu Shuang already was retreating, having been met with a dead end. One person handling Wu Xiao and the white and black unicorn tiger practically was her limit. A ringing phrase broke free from Wu Xiao's lips. The white and black unicorn tiger's radiance sharply increased. Hu Shuang's whip technique finally showed a gap, rushed into pieces by the white and black unicorn tiger. Damn! Hu Shuang glanced at the immobilized Xie Chang'an behind her, immediately pouncing backwards. A silhouette rushed towards her with speed beyond compare. Wu Xiao's noble frost demonic lotus broke an incalculable distance, striking open a line. The sword shadow on the ground suddenly lengthened. When she spotted the white and black unicorn tiger about to claw Xie Chang'an, with his current capabilities, that was death without doubt. Hu Shuang hastily shouted, and the double whip suddenly formed layers of severe winds, no longer caring about the Wu Xiao behind her. Just at this critical moment, the white and black unicorn completely lacked any indication as it suddenly counterattacked against her. Ah! The Hu Shuang that was worried for her contractor did not foresee this sudden change. She was greatly startled, but worthy of her name as a five tiger, her reactions were extremely quick. Wind and moon unmatched shook, whipping the white and black unicorn tiger when a chilly wind came from her side. Protecting against the white and black unicorn tiger, she had let Wusong through. Under the front and rear pincer attack of the 7th-rank spirit beast and Wusong, the Hu Shuang who could not handle both at the same time was flustered. Her elbow struck backwards, and Wu Xiao again was greatly outside of her anticipation when she swayed and stepped past Hu Shuang. Her cloak fell, and the cool and elegant figure already was in front of Xie Chang'an. The sword tip pressed against Xie Chang'an's throat. Hu Shuang gasped, angrily rushing out. Humph. Wu Xiao naturally disdained to kill Xie Chang'an so as to avoid staining the millennial name of the pilgrim. However, this generation's Wusong was also open-minded, a person that did not bother with trifles. When it was unnecessary, her so-called disdain to kill was merely so. Two choices. Die here or leave here. Wu Xiao was expressionless. She knew it was difficult to settle Hu Shuang in such a short time, so she might as well be blunt in confronting the contractor. Since she had dared to sign with a contractor anyways, she should have prepared for the price. Xie Chang'an stupidly looked at Hu Shuang. Everything was the responsibility of the latter. The prestige star looked up at the sky and laughed heartily, countering with a question, "May your servant venture to ask for little sister's true name?" "Xiao. Your servant has the single character Shuang. Truly extremely good. The little sister Xiao with a man makes your servant have a whole new level of respect, as expected. For the sake of your man, violating your code is insignificant." Wu Xiao's expression also replied as so. "Good, elder sister wishes to ask one final question." Hu Shuang said. "Wu Xiao, why would you sign a contract? Your servant does not have any relationship with that man." Wu Xiao's forehead wrinkled. "If little sister Xiao is unwilling to speak, then forget it. This time, Hu Shuang has lost. If little sister is unwilling to kill that stupid man, next time, your servant will be twice as great." Hu Shuang very directly spoke. However, this sort of threat completely lacked meaning to Wu Xiao. A genuine star duel always was the sole pursuit of the harm star pilgrim. Hu Shuang profoundly glanced at Wu Xiao. Her figure flashed, and she entered the star nest. Xie Chang'an shot a glance at the cool and elegant Xiao. He could not help but be somewhat envious of the man that could obtain her. He secretly cursed himself for indulging in his flights of fancy. Xie Chang'an had no alternative but to use his jade pendant. His figure turned to smoke, and then it dissipated where it was. Wu Xiao let out a sigh. At this time, she saw those founders already waged war at the Jade Alum Palace. Immediately, she straddled the white and black unicorn tiger and flew towards the Jade Alum Palace. The Su Xing walking along the secret passageway did not know at all that Wu Xiao had already beat back a heavenly star that was one of the 5 tigers, prestige star Hu Yanzhua, for the sake of eradicating a bit of trouble for him. At this moment, in this secret passageway he had walked for a long time, he finally saw the end. Su Xing used the oneness of heaven and man to restrain his presence, and Yan Yizhen at this moment also entered the star nest so as to avoid exposing his whereabout. Within the darkness, Su Xing slowly looked over. The end was an expansive and absolutely empty hall, dotted with several cups of dim candles. There were no decorations, but there were several burning fire cauldrons and several sculptures. Within the darkness, there were several indistinct figures. One of them was a lady that wore a luxurious and alluring dress, with her hair tied into a snake and scorpion bun. She probably was the Vermilion Bird Territory's #1 star master, the Lady Snake Scorpion. She currently looked anxiously at a mirror inside her hand. Beside her were two others, who were not the Xia twins, for their builds were tall. Their cultivators were all supercluster stage, and one was the Demi-King Golden Wings he had met before. The other was built tall and sturdy, and Su Xing did not know which demi-clan he was from. He ought to be one of the two demi-kings the Lady Snake Scorpion reportedly captured. However, Su Xing went on this trip to obtain Xia Zhen's blood. Could it be that she was in the star nest? Just as he thought this, he suddenly heard a little girl's voice. "Elder sister, play fight against scorpions with little Chan." That was the twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao's voice. Su Xing's heart tightened. A petite silhouette that did not sense him in the slightest walked near him. This little girl possessed an indifference similar to Yan Yizhen's, but her eyes were much more gloomy, with a demonic toxic gas from head to foot. Childish. She turned her head, replying with neither sadness nor joy. She was the savage star double-headed serpent Xia Zhen. Su Xing in his dreams did not think that the little lowly he drooled with desire for would unexpectedly run in front of his eyes. Furthermore, Su Xing's oneness of heaven and man was too powerful. Plus, this place was the underground Gu Hall, where even Lady Snake Scorpion would not have thought someone would be secretly spying. Seeing the Lady Snake Scorpion watch the mirror as she guarded in front of an ancient door, she constantly muttered to herself. She probably was worrying about the 10,000-year Gu and did not pay attention to the Xia twins' clamor. At this moment, the savage star double-headed serpent Xia Zhen seemingly was fed up and wanted to go walk outside, completely oblivious to danger as she approached that nook Su Xing hid himself in. Su Xing rapidly brainstormed, and then he recalled that last time when he encountered crying star Xia Bao at Falling Dragon Mountain, not only did he act to rapidly dispatch her, he also successfully obtained the blood to cure the Gu poison. The opportunity this time and last time that were no different were placed in front of Su Xing. Su Xing maintained his calm and was not excessively excited. First, he sized up the terrain of this place. The secret passage was very deep, with several slightly spacious halls built into the center. Lady Snake Scorpion and the others were paying attention to the birth of the 10,000-year Gu, so no one noticed the departing Xia Zhen. However, calling out a flying sword immediately would alarm them. With Xia Zhen's reactions, at that time, he could not rapidly dispatch her. On the contrary, he himself would fall into a dangerous place. Su Xing currently considered his priority to be obtaining blood to cure the poison and then to discuss about how to kill her quickly. Only the intertwined branch sword of the 1,000-year contract could break the star energy protecting a star general. Su Xing muttered to himself for a long while, and then his mind had its countermeasure. The double-headed serpent walked out 100 paces and suddenly stopped. She turned her head to cast a glance towards the shadows Su Xing concealed himself in. It seemed she sensed something out of place. However, Su Xing had Shi Yuan's hiding, innate skill and the oneness of heaven and man. She basically was unable to make him out if she did not walk close. Xia Zhen's divine intent naturally could not sweep out anything, and she once more walked expressionlessly forward. Su Xing surreptitiously bit open his finger and grasped a clump of essence blood. That clump of essence blood quickly became a golden ring in Su Xing's palm. This was the golden immortal linked life ring he obtained when he killed Long Outyan. Every time he was to use the star weapon of a star-fallen star general, it required essence blood as a supplement, and spitting up every time would make the user's energy greatly harmed. Prudently finishing every movement, no one noticed Su Xing at all. Su Xing inhaled deeply. He turned his wrist, and 30 middle-grade talismans, shadow beast talismans, appeared. Just when Lady Snake Scorpion and the others' attention were completely on their side, he suddenly threw the talismans into the hall at the other end. The talismans transformed into beasts of darkness. These transformed beasts were a very big threat to lower-grade cultivators, however, they were only cannon fodder in front of Lady Snake Scorpion's group. Su Xing did not hope these shadow beast talismans could settle them. His objective was to borrow the void darkness to cover his tracks, and his superior hiding would shift the attention of Lady Snake Scorpion and the others. As expected, the moment the shadow beasts emerged, they startled Lady Snake Scorpion, and the group immediately launched attacks. Su Xing guessed that the shadow beast talismans could persist for more or less between 5 to 9 seconds, and these seconds were the time to settle things with one strike. Sensing the commotion coming from behind her, the double-headed serpent turned her head, seemingly still expressionless. She stepped forward several paces, and the darkness of the surrounding corners suddenly erupted. Xia Zhen's reactions were very quick, and she was incomparably crafty. She promptly retreated, her hand moving. Several green snakes formed, flying over like living creatures. Destined Star Weapon. Green Tree Viper Gloom Blade. 2. The blade light moved to and fro, its cold glint crackling as it brought a strange spiritual energy on its way to bite Su Xing. Knowing that this Green Tree Viper Gloom blade contained potent poison, Su Xing did not dare directly receive it. His body leaned, and the Green Tree Viper Gloom blade skimmed past his eyelid. Su Xing even could see the green vipers of that blade flicking their tongues. Xia Zhen was stunned, but at this time, the double-headed serpent's taciturn nature had been successfully exploited by Su Xing, thus avoiding a blunder. She had not yet called out in the first moments, nor did she utter a single noise. The Lady Snake Scorpion group that had their attention attracted elsewhere simply did not sense the state that occurred with Xia Zhen. The double-headed serpent's eyes flashed a gloom, and her white fingers danced. But how could Su Xing give her that chance? The golden immortal linked life ring rose. The light rays on that golden ring burned, and the talisman script floated. The golden immortal linked life ring became 5 afterimages that suddenly disappeared. In the next instant, they appeared on the 4 limbs and neck of Xia Zhen, and the violently erupting rays of light retracted. A sparkling multicolored light locked tight Xia Zhen's movements. Even the double-headed serpent at this time only raised her eyelids, still unfrightened that something happened. Su Xing's heart felt admiration towards this little girl's calm. He was not the slightest neglectful, and the intertwined branch sword seized the chance to swipe across Xia Zhen's arm. Although Xia Zhen's arms had been trapped, she nevertheless opened her mouth and sprayed a green poison gas into Su Xing's face. Even Su Xing had no other choice. The 12 heaven-tearing swords once again moved. At the same time, Su Xing's wrist flipped out the miraculous Bodhi tree and swiped at the cave entrance, swiping out a burst of multicolored light and auspicious vapors. Only when Xia Zhen spotted Su Xing's spirit treasure did she finally show shock, but at this time, the 12 golden swords already slashed. After Lady Snake Scorpion and the rest destroyed the shadow beast, they sensed something was not too right. In addition, when Su Xing used the golden immortal linked life ring, they were startled. Therefore, every type of magic weapon and ability as well as Xia Bao's golden scorpion fine rain needles shot directly over to save Xia Zhen. A clear drizzle of blue light seemingly projected and suddenly flashed, instantly breaking their assault. They saw the golden sword's dragon roar, a spirit abundantly powerful enough to overturn mountains and rivers. Mother Highness, it's that man! Xia Bao screamed. Quickly come back! Lady Snake Scorpion was greatly astonished, clutching in her hand the purple star-grade star treasure star's falling dragon sword. When Xia Zhen's eyes saw the flying swords falling, she already did not have the chance to escape. She had never thought her opponent would plan so accurately, restricting all of her movement. She gloomily glanced at Su Xing, as if she wanted to etch his appearance into her mind. The star crest on Xia Zhen's forehead suddenly shattered. Star release. Su Xing was stunned. Just as heaven-tearing slashed, Xia Zhen simultaneously disappeared. Su Xing never expected the little girl would be so resolute to use star release. Star release was usable by all star generals that signed contracts. It allowed the star general to instantly return to the star nest at great harm to oneself, almost the same as being killed. The difference was in judgment, and recovery was also faster than if they had died. Su Xing swallowed 1,000 bells immortals due and no longer hesitated. He released a purple thunder barrier, turning around to flee towards outside the cave mouth. A concealed weapon. Goo poison successively erupted at the place Su Xing left from. A snake image swept dejectedly pounced at the air. Lady Snake Scorpion's head sunk. She honestly scowled in anger. She did not know what the background of that cultivator was, to unexpectedly infiltrate her Goo palace. In addition, twice he had met with her star generals twin-tailed scorpion and double-headed serpent, attacking each once. This result practically was more incapable of being accepted than if Lady Snake Scorpion had been killed. Mother Highness. Xia Bao also anxiously looked at Lady Snake Scorpion. She truly was speechless that her elder sister unexpectedly also would fall into the star nest like herself, deserving to be called twins. This queen was careless. Someone unexpectedly could find this secret passageway. Lady Snake Scorpion gnashed her teeth. Demi-King's Golden Wings, Demi-King Power Bear. 3. You two quickly inspect this passageway. Be sure to kill the opponent, and you absolutely cannot allow him to get close. Lady Snake Scorpion coldly commanded the two Demi-Kings, even if he dies, flog his corpse. As you command, Queen. Demi-King's Golden Wings and Power Bear immediately rushed out the cave mouth. Mother Highness, calm down. You can only blame that man for honestly being too cunning. Xia Bao consoled. Lady Snake Scorpion nodded and sat on the stone chair. She was somewhat worried and sick at heart. Without Xia Zhen, the loss to Lady Snake Scorpion was certainly extremely great. The Xia twins' martial force were degenerate in of themselves. Relying on the mutual connection of their hearts, their flawless Goo poisons were perfect matches. Originally, she had wanted to rely on the Heaven Earth Dark Yellow Skill Snake and Scorpion Beauty's Kiss to act as a trump card. She did not expect that surprisingly, this sort of unexpected mishap would occur, that Xia Zhen unexpectedly would be finished. Lady Snake Scorpion truly was angered to the point her lungs were about to explode. Although the double-headed serpent Xia Zhen in the star nest was silent and did not say anything, Lady Snake Scorpion sensed her guilt. Kindly saying some words of comfort, Lady Snake Scorpion continued to look at the Goo mirror in her hand. Inside the mirror was the 10,000-year Goo, which was already battling at the final juncture. In the end, only one poison ape and a 10,000-year centipede were engaged in their final battle. It was nearly about to be born. She absolutely could not fail here for lack of effort. Lady Snake Scorpion secretly clenched tight her fist. However, at this time, Lady Snake Scorpion had not expected the man she hated to the bone would be even more cunning than she had thought. Demi-King Golden Wings and Demi-King Power Bear walked out of the secret passage and searched their own ways. That guy honestly fled quickly. Golden Wings, your wind and thunder wings perhaps are not a match. Demi-King Power Bear joked. Demi-King Golden Wings was expressionless, his eyes very strange. How can that man flee this quickly? Unexpectedly, there is not a single trace. Hearing Demi-King Power Bear's words, he turned his head and said disapprovingly, could it be you have forgotten? That man seemed to be the cultivator that killed twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao before. Originally, when he was chased by the Rock Demon King, the giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li still could not catch up. As if your servant's wind and thunder wings has a damned use. Where did such a cultivator defiant of the natural order come from? Demi-King Power Bear shivered. Immediately afterwards, he was somewhat anxious. If he is this quick, then what are we to do? The queen wants us to search, but we simply cannot find even the hair of another person. We can just guard the passage's entrance, then. Demi-King Golden Wings thought that this was the best result. To be frank, according to the two of them, encountering a suspicious cultivator capable of getting rid of a heavenly star, they were uncertain in their hearts. Besides, their opponent was someone even the Rock Demon King had no alternative for. Demi-Kings like them had best not waste their breath. Demi-King Power Bear deeply held this to be true. The two of them acting together was somewhat deficient, but each separating would probably end with them being struck down one at a time. However, this is too odd. Unexpectedly, the escape technique did not leave even a single trace. We do not know either what ability it is. Demi-King Golden Wings' eyesight was very strong. Nevertheless, Demi-King Golden Wings truly felt it was odd he could not see the magic energy fluctuations Su Xing left behind when he ran. Demi-King Power Bear scoffed and said, "If that cultivator's escape technique left even the Rock Demon King without a way, your golden eyesight can see hairlines." Demi-King Golden Wings pondered and then obediently guarded the secret passage's entrance. At this time, the two Demi-Kings absolutely did not think that Su Xing did not escape at all, but was right under their noses. Su Xing lied atop a rampart of the hidden passage like a gecko lying down. The hymn hidden in the oneness of heaven and man condition absolutely could not be discovered if one was not carefully looking. The two great Demi-Kings also absolutely would not expect that the purple thunder Su Xing released just now was only a smoke shell. He did not run, rather, he borrowed the purple thunder barrier to climb up and hide himself. Including Lady Snake Scorpion, they all followed their subconscious logic in believing one man alone charging into a risky situation to kill Xia Zhen would be enough of a harvest. Since he was discovered, he was certain to flee. There was no reason to dare conceal himself again. It was precisely this sort of psychological blind spot that let Su Xing quietly break away from the two great Demi-Kings. Even the Shi Yuan in the star nest was flabbergasted and praised him. Otherwise, Su Xing honestly was somewhat thorny to Lady Snake Scorpion. Seeing that the hall was left with only Lady Snake Scorpion and Xia Bao, a cold light immediately appeared in Su Xing's eyes. Seeing that Lady Snake Scorpion was relatively far and having gone through the previous sneak attack, Lady Snake Scorpion had increased her vigilance. At the same time, she clutched a sword of sparkling starlight. Even if they were separated a great distance, Su Xing could sense the resolution on that sword. Astonishingly, it was a purple star-grade star treasure. Xia Bao was at her side, and having lost her elder sister, the twin-tailed scorpion was somewhat depressed, but her whole body was on guard, her fingers incessantly playing with the golden scorpion fine rain needles. Su Xing saw he could not find a gap, and he did not know if delaying any further would be a solution. Heaven knew what time the two Demi-Kings would return. Moving his divine intent, he immediately rushed out, the 12 heaven-tearing swords producing a deep dragon roar as they shot out. When the golden light appeared, they immediately startled Lady Snake Scorpion and Xia Bao. Xia Bao's golden scorpion fine rain needles became a drizzle that sprinkled over, fine as fur. Lady Snake Scorpion's eyes shot out a tremendous hatred. She raised her hand, and a 7 chi long black python also rushed out. Afterwards, every sort of goo poison each flew out. Not only those, but countless poisonous bugs also wildly bubbled forth. Amidst Lady Snake Scorpion's low cries, they pounced towards Su Xing, covering the sky and earth. When Su Xing saw this many poison bugs appear, a slightly flabbergasted expression flashed past his eyes. But in the next instant, those poison bugs wrapped up heaven tearing with layer upon layer, beginning to gnaw at the flying swords. Now, 2 heaven-tearing swords at this time already separated to slash onto Xia Bao and Lady Snake Scorpion. With a clang, clang, Xia Bao's golden scorpion fine rain needles were 3-star, and the myriad fine needles were like a torrential downpour. They easily restrained the flying swords that came slashing. Su Xing was far from giving up when he saw this. Two purple mansion immortals thunder bullets thick as an arm shot out, immediately booming over. Lady Snake Scorpion's goo poison was superb. Flicking her 5 fingers, she fired a black light. Then, the blazes burning inside the palace pots turn black, soar into the sky and attack towards Su Xing. They had met for no more than a moment, but Su Xing and Lady Snake Scorpion both alternated launching their abilities without holding back at all. What Su Xing did not expect was that this galaxy early-stage Lady Snake Scorpion unexpectedly repeatedly restrained his flying swords and the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunders. However, Su Xing's side still had Yanizhen present. The skillful Star Wanderer Little Yi's figure flashed and rushed out, directly attacking the weakest Xia Bao. Let alone that Xia Bao looked like a little girl of 7 or 8 years, she fought calmly and composed. The golden scorpion fine rain needles fell towards Yanizhen without leaving any gaps, but Little Yi's speed was very quick, her reactions also very timely. However, the golden scorpion fine rain needles were too numerous and too concentrated. If she got close, even a 5-tiger general would not necessarily block everything. Several thin needles stuck into Yanizhen's skin, but the maid was hard as a boulder, not hesitating in the slightest. A fist powerfully boomed onto Xia Bao's head. Xia Bao was sent flying, but this punch was not enough to make her sustain serious injury. The twin-tailed scorpion snorted. She looked at the Yanizhen rushing towards her from the front, and the golden scorpion fine rain needles became a scorpion tail that suddenly stabbed downwards. Yellow rank poison needle. Scorpion tail needle. Clang, clang. The scorpion tail needle could not pierce into Yanizhen's body. The maid's steps changed, easily avoiding the scorpion's tail. The skillful star's phantoms were consecutive, and another fist approached. Lady Snake Scorpion controlled several poison pythons to pounce towards Yanqing, letting Xia Bao avert disaster. Boom, boom, boom. A violent rumble suddenly went through the tunnel. Su Xing instantly knew that the 2 great demi-kings already heard the commotion and were rushing over. It made Su Xing felt that it was a pity he was unable to kill Lady Snake Scorpion in a single hit. She was worthy of the name of the Vermilion Bird Territory's #1 star master, for the goo poison arts she controlled left Su Xing at wit's end. Inside the secret passage, Demi-King Golden Wings flapped his pair of wings, producing the sound of wind and thunder. Several blinks later, and he had arrived. His speed actually was swift, somewhat different in approach to the Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li but with an equally admirable result. The cultivator is courting death. Demi-King Golden Wings, and his hands became sharp talons that scratched at Su Xing. Su Xing used the true dragon 9 claws art to attack. The powerful strength grabbed the two, and they could not help but be repelled. Demi-King Golden Wings' retreat was insignificant, but when Su Xing was forced back, the flying swords controlled by his divine intent were nearly destabilized. Su Xing hastily steadied his mind. A black fire and a powerful toxin already covered towards him under the Lady Snake Scorpion's control. Su Xing fired the Purple Cloud True Star and Purple Mansion Immortal's Thunder to finally stop it. Lady Snake Scorpion was startled, having not thought that the powers of the cultivator before her were more varied than hers. In any case, that she had this many abilities was because her lord husband was Falling Dragon Mountain's great sage Falling Sky, the Rock Demon King. And just what was the background of this brat? Thinking of this, Lady Snake Scorpion was even more unwilling to let Su Xing go. When Yanizhen saw that the 2 great demi-kings made a pincer attack, she could only give up on handling Xia Bao, turning around to attack a demi-king. Her figure moved, and as if the several dozen meters of distance did not exist, she appeared in front of Demi-King Golden Wings in the blink of an eye. Originally, Demi-King Golden Wings was currently charging his golden claws in preparation to give Su Xing another fierce attack. Nevertheless, he did not foresee Yanizhen would suddenly block his front. Demi-King Golden Wings promptly went to block, but how could he compare to the Yanizhen's 2-star weapons, Swallow Flash Samsara? Su Xing at this moment also painstakingly resonated for the sake of allowing Yanizhen to instantly dispose of the demi-king. The coordination between master and servant practically was perfect tacit understanding. Yanizhen was indifferent towards demi-king Golden Wing's defenses, answering his defense with disdain. Her two fists went ahead like phantoms, the air filled with a frightening whistle. How could the pitiful demi-king Golden Wings expect that the very first to rush over would become the very first to be beaten silly? His powerful body and excellent speed let him down, for under the Swallowflash Samsara, he was unexpectedly unable to withstand even a single face-to-face confrontation. Every inch of his flesh was shaken and ripped by Yanizhen's cruel fists, bringing a ash-black bloodlight. His large body unexpectedly was continuously pressed upon by Yanizhen, completely unable to break free. Demi-King Golden Wings sensed he was about to be completely destroyed. He fiercely yelled, and his wings flapped. He flew into the air, and at this moment, Yanizhen's figure followed like a shadow, appearing behind him at the same time. Demi-King Golden Wings was so frightened he nearly lost his soul. Clearly, he did not expect Yanizhen's speed to be fast to this degree. He could not rely on any of his previous experiences in facing an opponent. In the moment Demi-King Golden Wings was startled, he did not even have the chance to react, and then his head was suddenly grabbed by the maid behind him. Speedily defeating her opponent in a single blow, Yanizhen certainly was never one to be sloppy. Yanizhen's hand grabbed Demi-King Golden Wings from behind and fully used her heavy fist. The yin-yang Pisces fists alternately struck, a warm and a cold Pisces reflected each other. A frightening noise continuously was produced between the two. Demi-King Golden Wings' groans were louder and louder, already completely uncontrollable. The acute pain made Demi-King Golden Wings simply unable to organize any counterattacks. A large expanse of bloodlight erupted and sprayed into the air. The red-scarlet color was a ghastly sight, combined with bits of dust sent flying in the air, it drew a long bloody tint. The maid cruelly kicked above his stomach, and the immense strength changed Demi-King Golden Wings' shape. Boom! An enormous noise. Demi-King Golden Wings fell onto the ground. The hard floor splintered, sending fragments shooting in all directions. A gigantic air wave soared, like a true tidal wave, raising a terrifying tide. The entire room gave rise to a violent quaking, all because of Yanizhen's attack. The magnificent supercluster Demi-King had unexpectedly been instantly killed by Yanizhen. The yin-yang Pisces on the maid's fists swam around. Impossible. The skillful star wanderer Yanqing. Lady Snake Scorpion turned pale with fright, and neither did she know why she felt it was impossible. Demi-King Power Bear at this time rushed over. Due to his not having Demi-King Golden Wings Wind and Thunder escape, his speed was greatly slower. He stared blankly at the Demi-King Golden Wings that was killed like a lamb entering the tiger's den. Demi-King Power Bear was also of tyrannical strength, and he swung his huge fists without the slightest hesitation. Su Xing at this time broke the resonance, and he released another Purple Mansion Immortal's Thunder and Purple Cloud True Star. It was just that delaying further like this was too great a waste of energy. A drizzle of 100 golden needles pierced through and broke out of the purple thunder. Su Xing controlled the flying swords to block them. Lady Snake Scorpion could discern that Su Xing was out of the ordinary. Perhaps he still had abilities he was restraining. She immediately did not hesitate, and neither was she willing to continue delaying. Although it was somewhat of a pity, she could only use her strongest astral treasure. The astral treasure star's falling dragon sword in the Lady Snake Scorpion's hand immediately waved, and when Xia Bao saw this, she then entered the star nest. Lady Snake Scorpion read an incantation. The light rays of that double-edged sword's starlight in her hand shimmered and was increasingly penetrating. Countless dragon images were seemingly sealed onto that sword, and these dragons were like tadpoles that were shrunken down several times as they swam about continuously on the sword's edge. Su Xing immediately sensed something far from reassuring. Lady Snake Scorpion took no more than the blink of an eye to raise the sword in her hand. The entire underground palace was filled with light. The starlight of a galaxy seemingly fell into the underground, the scene seemingly exceedingly beautiful. Stars falling dragon sword. The insufferably arrogant demi-king powerful bear shouted in fright, unexpectedly not caring to strike Yanizhan any longer. He turned and was about to flee. Little E. Su Xing roused the 12 heaven-tearing swords the moment he saw this. The 12 heaven-tearings became a golden shield that protected his entire body. The swords released golden dragons that were also bold and powerful. Little E understood tacitly and stole into the star nest. Go! Lady Snake Scorpion shouted, and that star's falling dragon sword immediately was like shattering glass. The 100 different colored dragons trapped inside suddenly burst out like a heaven-overflowing flood. The entire underground cave was filled with countless dragons, imposing and turning everything upside down. Su Xing was startled, having not expected the Lady Snake Scorpion's star's falling dragon sword to be this violent. Countless dragons immediately crammed into the underground palace, like a rolling flood. The cavern's black fire, poisonous animals, and poisonous bugs were instantly washed cleanly away. Bang, bang, bang. Demi-King Power Bear screamed and was ravaged into a rag by a dragon. Su Xing's heart shivered, an entire supercluster Demi-King unexpectedly was swallowed by a dragon with not even slag left. The dragon slammed onto the 12 heaven-tearings like a tidal wave. Su Xing's divine intent hurt. Silently shouting, "This is bad," the immemorial sword chant heaven-tearing dragon scale sword was unexpectedly slightly unable to persist after being twisted by Lady Snake Scorpion's dragons. Damage surprisingly appeared on the life-cast flying swords. This astral treasure honestly was too terrifying, and Su Xing hastily seized the miraculous Bodhi tree to swipe with. A wave of divine light manifested and rolled. Prehistoric spirit treasures were purported to be slightly better than a purple star astral treasure, but with this swipe, he did not know if it was his cultivation that was too low or if it was because of other reasons. The clear light and propitious vapors of the miraculous Bodhi tree capable of breaking 10,000 techniques wrapped up the 100 dragons. Nevertheless, it only made things smaller, and it was incapable of suppressing the falling dragon sword's devastation. Su Xing again swallowed several thousand bells immortals dew, successively swiping several times. Only then did the clear light finally was considered to have taken the advantage. Lady Snake Scorpion inhaled, similarly consuming several thousand bells immortals dew. The weakening falling dragon sword's vigor again increased, crazily swelling. Su Xing and the Lady Snake Scorpion began to stake their star energies. The miraculous Bodhi tree and the star's falling dragon sword carried out a life and death confrontation. The one that could not persist, dies. Liked it? Great Circle Castle. The noble star Little Whirlwind Chai Ling opened her eyes and leisurely rose from her frankincense session. Her hair was a mess, and her soft chest was half covered, a beauty's sleeping posture. Milady. Jinji and Yuya carried golden basins and silk towels as they waited respectfully nearby. This palace truly has provoked a major inconvenience. And what did that guy go and provoke to make this palace's heart so anxious and frightened? Chai Ling's hands dipped into the warm water and used the silk towel to wipe herself clean, all the while complaining. Milady, at that time, why did you have to consume the together to hell with him? Jinji very carefully asked. Once something like together to hell was consumed, a telepathic link was formed between both minds. Given the sort of extensive travel Su Xing undertook, a star master that went through fire and water, their commandery princess could not avoid great suffering. For the sake of the star beast, this is worth the price. Chai Ling held her golden thread feather fan, delicate and graceful. How has she been most recently? Still at that old place? Chai Ling asked. Yes. This palace shall go see her. Perhaps Su Xing would make her feel interested. Chai Ling wore a cramped smile. Great Circle Castle, Langhuan Pavilion. This was an extremely luxurious book depository, its doors engraved with dragons and painted with phoenixes, colorful and brilliant. In particular, the three words, Langhuan Pavilion, resounded powerfully. The phoenix danced towards the dragon, the power of the strokes exceptional. This was the calligraphy of the fifth-generation noble star. In reality, let alone that the noble stars of the successive generations of star duels were spectators from start to finish, each noble star was never lonely. The first noble star produced vast wealth, the second noble star had wealth equivalent to a nation's, the third noble star hoarded every sort of rare item, the fourth noble star gathered intelligence on Liangshan, and the fifth noble star began to specialize in each of the major sets. The entire Great Circle Castle up to now was the accumulated wealth of the successive noble stars. This Langhuan Pavilion was something the fifth-generation noble star left behind. Inside, it possessed scrolls from the entire Liangshan continent that even Emperor Liang would feel inferior to. In full, there were millions of books. But it was a pity that even if the noble star was unrivaled in splendor, in the end, she nevertheless could not avoid disappearing following the conclusion of the star duel. Chai Ling raised her head to look at the next few characters on the Langhuan Pavilion. On it was written several words from the Book of Rites, to study things broadly, investigate things fully, deliberate things carefully, discern things clearly, practice things universally. 3. These were the fifth noble star's words of self-encouragement. If this palace were to seize a star beast and become a genuine star general, would that not count as this generation's dream? As Chai Ling thought this, she pushed the door and entered. Langhuan Pavilion was a hall 1,000 square meters long and 100 meters tall. Its four walls were filled with shelves of scrolls. Even that black gold pillar was piled with scrolls. However, the volumes originally should have been displayed nevertheless were in disarray. The entire floor was piled with all sorts of ancient books in piles more than half a meter thick. Seeing such a terrible mess, the little whirlwind Chai Ling was not angry, but freely smiled. She walked in and found a seat to sit in. Jinji and Yuya brewed some violet tea for Chai Ling. A faint wisp of the violet tea drifted into the air. "That smells great." Suddenly, a voice rang out inside the room. Voila! The sea of books filling as far as the eye could see flipped apart, and a tall woman climbed out from within the pile of books. She was a beauty, with thick brows and shining eyes. "Kong Ho, 5, have you found any information on that Maiden Mountain?" Chai Ling covered her mouth, seemingly smiling yet not as she asked. This Kong Ho woman carefreely sat over, directly picking up that pot of violet tea and pouring herself a cup. "It truly is strange, there is no information on the Maiden Mountain at all, so hard to find." Kong Ho replied in satisfaction. "The fifth noble star was once like you, having sworn to crack the secret of the Maiden Mountain, but in the end, she turned up empty-handed." Chai Ling slightly smiled. Kong Ho replied, "That Maiden Mountain cannot possibly appear out of thin air. Since the star duels have only had 1,000 years, there will always be traces from before 1,000 years. Liangshan continent's documents are countless, and I do not believe that I cannot find the tiniest of hints. You could search 100 years and come up with nothing. However, that said, Kong Ho, the star duels have begun so long ago, yet you never were interested." Chai Ling indistinctly shot a glance at her. Kong Ho rested her head on her arms. Those black as lacquer pupils flashed a slight loneliness. What is there to be interested about in the star duels with this sort of internecine killing? Quite the interesting change has appeared in this generation. Chai Ling smiled. Kong Ho heard the implications in her words, and she hooked on a smile. "Chai Ling, what change?" "There is a star master that has contracted at least 4 sisters." The little whirlwind opened the golden thread feather fan and covered her lips, her eyes filled with rumination. When Kong Ho heard this, she immediately twitched her lips. Having seen the secret documents of Liangshan's star duels, she naturally knew that signing 2 was the star duel's limit. One with more than 2 had never appeared, more than 4 sisters. That man is amazing, but in the end, he is the same as the others. Hearing that he had signed 2-star general did not make her feel surprised at all. This palace is thinking, if that man refused? The little whirlwind's tone was thoughtful. Refuse? Since he participates in the star duels, how could he possibly refuse? Kong Ho laughed aloud. In the future, will you be willing to lend him a helping hand? The little whirlwind did not reply and countered with another question. Kong Ho pinched her chin and looked pensively. Chai Ling, what relationship do you have with him? What are you doing concerning yourself with a star master? These star masters merely exploit star generals to ascend Maiden Mountain and grant their so-called wish. Elder sister Kong Ho, just answer this palace. Chai Ling closed the fan, her expression appearing very serious. I shall not go help a star master. Pondering for a moment, Kong Ho shook her head. What if this palace were to inform you that star master has contracted Lin Chong? Then I actually want to see that for myself. However, I feel some things are strange. Chai Ling, at what time would you act as the go-between for a star master? Kong Ho downed a mouthful of violet tea. The little whirlwind Chai Ling hooked on a queen's frivolous smile. She smiled, but did not speak, for her head suddenly hurt. What is the matter? Chai Ling twitched her lips, and her brows wrinkled. Just what was that man doing? The Gu Palace's underground. The myriad dragons became a tide that struck wave after wave onto the heaven-tearing swords. The 12 apex sword chants appeared to be on the verge of destruction. Su Xing thought to himself that this astral treasure actually was defiant of the natural order. Swiping the miraculous Bodhi tree several more times, every 3 swipes was able to stop just one wave of the falling dragon's assault. A short while later, with more than half of the 1,000 bells immortal dew gone, it made Su Xing's heart ache endlessly. Lady Snake Scorpion was also strenuously hanging on. The star's falling dragon sword also reached the critical point. This sort of purple star astral treasure was far from being simple as needing star energy to function. Now, having supported it for so long, she was an arrow at the end of its flight path. Seeing Su Xing was still resisting, her heart was somewhat resentful. Roar! Suddenly, an ape's hoot resounded from the Gu Hall. A violent jolt occurred in the underground palace, and a large area of rock peeled off. The expressions of Su Xing and Lady Snake Scorpion changed at the same time the 10,000-year Gu was being born. Hey! The star's falling dragon sword's light retracted, and the multitude of dragons turned back into a sword blade. Lady Snake Scorpion completely did not hesitate to then shoot a large expanse of Gu poison and then rush towards the Gu Hall's main door. How would Su Xing allow her wishes to be fulfilled, and he gave chase without another word. The Gu Hall's doors opened with a boom, and the two entered the Gu Valley at nearly the same time. The scene they saw inside was simply terrifying beyond compare. Inside this sealed valley were skeletons like mountains, an overwhelming stench, and the bodies of countless grotesque poison creatures, animals and bugs of names that could not uttered lay strewn over 10 li. Inside this Gu Hall were the corpses of odd demon creatures as far as the eye could see. The toxic gases were pervasive, and the air was viscous. Just on these skeletons piled like a mountain stood a humanoid ape. It had 2 heads, with arms extending past the knees. Its pitch-black fur was dyed red, green, blue, and with every sort of poison creature's blood. One of its pupils was already shattered, and the other was red as blood. What made people particularly shocked was its appearance. Its arms lay across a centipede-like carcass, the black fur seemingly like a hedgehog's poison needles, its fangs extending and retracting. It spat black chi, and its back sprouted a pair of bat wings. The poison flowing on its body congealed into an armor. One arm's claw was half a meter long. Whatever could be odder was odder. The 10,000-year Gu, Su Xing was startled. Lady Snake Scorpion was also startled, and then she was more delighted. How was this a 10,000-year Gu? It was clearly a Gu demon that had evolved from devouring countless poisons, bugs and beasts. Lady Snake Scorpion wanted to capture it the moment she saw it, for the goo demon that had just emerged from combat was now at its weakest. With the goo poison arts Lady Snake Scorpion meticulously cultivated for several decades, capturing it was easy as flipping her hand, but how could Su Xing allow her to have her way? Yan Yizhen rushed out of the star nest, running as fast as flying, one punch sent towards Lady Snake Scorpion. That goo demon at this moment noticed the two. Perhaps it had been immersed in a slaughter mode and had not yet sobered up, but the moment it saw the two, its blood once again flared up. Lady Snake Scorpion shouted, "Not good." She had arrived too early, for when the goo was born, it was necessary to wait a time until after the goo finished killing. Not long after the fighting ceased, the goo would fall into a state of deep sleep. That time was the golden opportunity to capture it, but because this man was interfering, Lady Snake Scorpion had momentarily forgot this matter when she impatiently charged into Goo Valley. As a result of this, the goo demon in front took the two to be targets to begin fighting again. The goo demon issued a shrill scream. It opened its arms and hugged towards Su Xing and Lady Snake Scorpion. Its chest had hundreds of claws, and its poison fangs were exposed, appearing terrifying. Lady Snake Scorpion dodged Yan Yizhen's fist, waved her hand, and a black bug flew out. "This time, we are certain to die." When Su Xing heard these words, he did not have the intent to reply, but he knew the seriousness of things. After a severe look flashed across his face, his sleeves suddenly trembled. Immediately, there was a clear dragon cry, and several dozen small golden swords swam out of his sleeves. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into a several chi-long golden light dragon, which spiraled around Su Xing. It was a pity that it had been greatly damaged by the star's falling dragon sword. Its radiance was dim, and its greatly depleted spiritual power made Su Xing very heartbroken. Then, he completely did not hesitate to consecutively strike several hand seals. All of the sword light shuddered several times. Instantly, it split into more than 100 identical golden lights, the light glowing brighter at the same time. "Go!" Su Xing formed a seal, and he softly shouted. The more than 100 sword lights suddenly cried simultaneously, then, they trembled all around. Each and every one of them oddly faded away from their position, instantly slashing in front of the goo demon. Clang clang. Su Xing was astonished, for he did not know whether it was because heaven tearing had abrasions or something else, but the flying sword array unexpectedly halted on top of an impenetrable defense to no avail. The goo demon that had passed through 10 years of slaughter waved its hand, that arm bursting 100 meters. Yan Yizhen directly grabbed this arm, and her skin was immediately pervaded with black poison. This goo demon's entire body was highly toxic beyond compare, untouchable by even little E. Yan Yizhen did not release it and still held onto the goo demon's arm as she tossed it away. The goo demon stopped in midair, its wings flapping. It had 2 long arms, and its long tail was like a scorpion's stinger. Su Xing's heart sunk. This 10,000-year goo was somewhat hard to chew on. The goo demon before him truly was monstrous and terrifying to the extreme. Its side-by-side necks had 2 malevolent ape heads, and its 4 long arms oddly extending past the knees scrambled like the 100 feet of a centipede. The fur of its whole body were like needles, and a black horn several inches long grew from its forehead. With its black face and fangs, its black lips opened and closed, a black as if it had been made up. Its long tongue full of spikes unexpectedly extended several chi, and when it flicked in and out, it was similar to a poisonous snake. What made people feel even colder was that the pupil of the ape's eye was narrow as a crack, flashing a blood-like cold light. As its eye rolled, it unexpectedly did not contain the feelings humans could have, and its fingers were sharp and directly grew similarly spiny fingernails. Opening and closing, a silvery white light flashed, an incomparably sharp appearance. Seeing this frightening appearance that made people freeze rather than fight, Su Xing and Lady Snake Scorpion each had different feelings. Su Xing felt that if such a goo demon became the helper creature of a star master, that simply was helping the evildoer, a disaster to the common people, but Lady Snake Scorpion was completely like she already had the best position. As far as goo poison arts were concerned, the 10,000-year goo demon in front of her truly was the perfect work. Su Xing felt this Lady Snake Scorpion was honestly very troublesome. Seeing that flying swords were unable to kill the goo demon, he might as well attack Lady Snake Scorpion, so as to avoid Lady Snake Scorpion using some weird method to obtain the 10,000-year goo. "Little E, you bother the goo demon," Su Xing instructed. "You can die." Xia Bao emerged from the star nest, her palm wide open. The golden scorpion fine rain needles shot over. Su Xing fanned his sleeve and blocked a portion. Xia Bao's golden scorpion fine rain needles nevertheless were endless. Heaven tearing at this time was already unable to resist, so Su Xing could only recall it into his body. Without the flying sword's support, the pressure on Xia Bao was greatly decreased. The golden scorpion fine rain needles continuously suppressed Su Xing, every sort of poison art emerging in succession. Bang! There was a weeping cry. Yanizhan's yin-yang palm, of 1 yin and 1 yang chopped down onto the 10,000-year goo demon's heads. The goo demon bared its fangs and sprayed out poison. Yanizhan's star energy condensed and became a vast stretch. Ah! Yanizhan was taken aback. Her palm chop entered the goo demon's body, but it brought out a carpal poisonous fluid. Even the skillful star made a pained face and fell back several steps. Luckily she had the protection of the yin-yang Pisces boxing gloves, otherwise the bones in her hands perhaps would be destroyed. "Master, its blood has a decaying poison," Yanizhan warned, not yet withdrawing. Her leg kicked heavily directly into the goo demon's stomach. The 10,000 poison quills abruptly contracted, and the goo demon showed a malevolent expression, screaming at Yanizhan. That scorpion tail behind it powerfully stabbed at Yanizhan with a thunderbolt-like obstinance. The maid leaned and easily dodged past it when the goo demon's 2 claws went for a bear hug. Yanizhan shouted, and her left elbow struck the goo demon's mandible. At the same time, she quickly turned around and used her right elbow to strike the jaw of the goo demon's other head. The skillful star's attacks were very refined, and even if her 2 fists had been decayed and their might greatly decreased, the joints on the wanderer Yan Qing's whole body were weapons. The goo demon spat out a poison gas. The whole body of this goo demon had bones of reinforced iron, so Yanizhan's fists and kicks simply were useless. The maid executed a quick somersault and leapt 1,000 meters away. The 10,000-year goo demon's wings extended, and it instantly scratched at Yanizhan's stomach. The maid's short hair parted, dodging within a reaction time of 1,000th. At the same time, her right fist tightly clenched and boomed against the goo demon's chest. This punch concentrated all of the power Yanizhan's whole body had, until the fire of Yang surged in waves. Boom! The goo demon had been sent flying heavily away. Just at this time, a green lotus hill pressed against it head-on. Lady Snake Scorpion and Xia Bao revealed shocked expressions. They saw Su Xing was still capable of using a prehistoric spirit treasure during the time he was stalling them. This guy's divine intent control was unbearably too abnormal. Su Xing struck a hand seal. The current coordination between he and Yanizhan was telepathic, each movement of the pair seemingly discussed beforehand. This sort of tacit understanding was the top condition that Star General and Star Masters pursued. The green lotus peak swelled with a whistle, and then it pressed down upon that 10,000-year goo demon ape when it was sent flying by Yanizhan. The 10,000-year goo demon spat out a clump of poison gas in a vain attempt to block it. Rumble. The mountain pressed on top of it. The goo valley's interior split open with landslides as the green lotus mountain heavily pressed down. It was a pity that Su Xing was too late to refine this green lotus peak, otherwise, if he had the green lotus karma fire, he definitely could exhibit even more of the green lotus peak's might. However, Being squeezed by a mountain, this 10,000-year goo perhaps had turned into a meat pancake. Recalling the green lotus peak, Su Xing looked, and he secretly cursed. There was no meat cake at all, there was not even a hair. All he saw was a large hole. That ape unexpectedly dug a hole to escape. Fuck, it unexpectedly could do this. Su Xing was speechless. However, to dig a tunnel in a split second to escape the spirit treasure pressing down on it was too incredible. Bang! Stone broke open with a bang. Then, the 10,000-year goo demon rushed out from the earth. Its mouth was full of razor teeth, and its 4 claws were sharp. When Lady Snake Scorpion saw that the 10,000-year goo demon had run to her side, she was not fearful but delighted. Her wrist flipped, and a multicolored light pillar flashed. Instantly, the 10,000-year goo demon was enveloped within. Her heart was greatly happy, and seizing this chance, a giant white ring then tightly covered it. The 10,000-year goo demon hooted several times, its pupils drenched in blood, too, its large mouth open. After it saw the white ring flash, the ring suddenly appeared above it and fell directly downwards. The 10,000-year goo within the multicolored light pillar lightly waved its 4 arms. Suddenly its 4 demonic arms flashed purple light, unexpectedly firmly stopping that giant ring, its actions completely swift. This moment made Lady Snake Scorpion startled. This was but the goo trapping ring, 3, which held excellent efficiency against this sort of goo type. It unexpectedly being stalled was honestly inconceivable, but hastily urging a hand seal, that halo's light shot in all directions. There was a brief trembling as the goo demon wanted to cast it aside, but the 4 large arms were like metal, completely unable to move in the slightest. The 10,000-year goo made an odd grin. Suddenly, it opened its mouth, and a pitch black as ink liquid spouted forth, just happening to strike onto the giant ring. The moment the immemorial secret treasure originally flashing a divine light was sprayed with the black liquid, the ring whined, and the divine light completely dispersed. At the same time, it became pitch black like ink, flickering with an eerie black light. My goo trapping ring! Lady Snake Scorpion shouted with great alarm. When the ring's color changed, it instantly broke the mental connection she had with the goo trapping ring. Her expression briefly lost its color. This 10,000-year goo demon that was unexpectedly fearless of even immemorial secret treasures honestly made people feel disbelief. This damned animal still does not acknowledge serving beneath this queen's foot. Lady Snake Scorpion cursed. She raised the stars falling dragon sword, but then she feared destroying this hard-to-obtain 10,000-year goo. If it was properly cultivated, that certainly would be an existence that surpassed purple star-grade magic weapons. The future star duels inevitably would be the Lady Snake Scorpions. The damned animal, Lady Snake Scorpion clutched talismans that she successively threw. She proved herself the woman of the Rock Demon King, for they were all high-grade talismans. The twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao could only give up confronting Su Xing and turn to attack the 10,000-year goo. Lady Snake Scorpion and she were both experts in goo poison, and they were quite knowledge about handling the 10,000-year goo covered head to toe in poison gas. The so-called fight poison with poison actually restricted it. Little E, take it. Su Xing saw that Yanizhan's complexion was already poisoned, and knowing she was heavily poisoned, he opened his mouth and gave the detoxification pearl to Yanizhan. Yanizhan did not decline. When she fought Xia Bao, she had sustained many golden scorpion fine rain needles and was also heavily poisoned confronting the goo demon. If this continued, Yanizhan would be unable to endure. Swallowing the detoxification pearl, the detoxifying treasure emitted a clear light that gradually suppressed the poisons in her body. This 10,000-year goo demon is very powerful, as if physics don't apply. Su Xing had not acted and still calmly watched Lady Snake Scorpion and Xia Bao handle the 10,000-year goo, hoping he could maneuver in through a gap. The 10,000-year goo demon was of copper hide and iron bone, but Lady Snake Scorpion and Xia Bao also were formidable. Under its chase to kill, they nimbly dodged and countered. Xiaobao's golden scorpion fine rain needles focused on piercing the 10,000-year Gu demon's eyes and other weaker areas, sticking in that the Gu demon howled incessantly. Martial force is completely ineffective. Yan Yizhen was confused. Oh, in short, swords are ineffective, but normal magics are ineffective, too. Su Xing's head somewhat ached. Yan Yizhen deeply held the same feeling. In her short exchange with the 10,000-year Gu demon, the skillful star already knew this Gu demon's ferocity. Star weapons actually could break through, but it was a pity that Yan Yizhen's star weapon Yin Yang Pisces boxing gloves turned out to be completely at a disadvantage handling the Gu demon. If Ying Mei was here, this would be far easier. Yan Yizhen clenched tight her fist. Su Xing agreed. He sensed Ying Mei and Xinjie. It seemed that things were apparently not as fierce as before. Furthermore, that Ying Mei and Xinjie had not returned to the star nest meant they should be all right. However, his intense uneasiness still made Su Xing wish to return quickly. It was just that the 10,000-year Gu already was born, and not settling this hidden danger he would perhaps be ashamed to see them after his return. But right now, Su Xing's abilities were ineffective. Inside his body, there were still 3 star weapons he could try. Thinking of this, Su Xing's eye shone. He spat essence blood, which became the blaze refining 9 hell saber, and the magical tool magical fire cloud fragrant handkerchief was thrown out at the same time and hung over the 10,000-year Gu demon's head. Little E. Yan Yizhen tacitly understood. She immediately rushed over to obstruct the link Lady Snake Scorpion and Xiaobao had with the 10,000-year Gu demon. Being closed in on by a martial general, Lady Snake Scorpion had no choice but to give up confronting Yan Yizhen. The magical fire cloud fragrant handkerchief sucked away Su Xing's star energy without end. Its spinning accelerated and suddenly transformed into a scarlet fire cloud. Even the surrounding airflow completely became a thick blood red, turning and boiling. There were waves of blood, and the Black Gu Valley was enveloped in a dazzling blood red. The red cloud secretly rolled with a blood flame. That cloud of blood and waves rapidly spun, and with a heavy boom, a great expanse of dark red flame fell towards the 10,000-year Gu demon. However, this was not sufficient to kill the 10,000-year Gu demon. The blaze refining 9 hell saber seemed to be a monster in high spirits, issuing a husky and intense cry. 9 scarlet lights struck the middle of the magical fire cloud fragrant handkerchief. The dark red magical fire's power wildly swelled and flourished under the 9 hells magic flame that burned the monsters under heaven. But he did not expect that the 10,000-year Gu demon would soar into the sky, open its large mouth and unexpectedly swallow the red cloud. When he saw that it wanted to eat the magical fire cloud fragrant handkerchief, Su Xing shouted to himself, "Fuck," and hastily recalled it. This sort of abrupt termination made Su Xing violently vomit blood. A ghostly wind blew. The 10,000-year Gu demon spread its wings, waved its 4 arms and bared its fangs as it went to attack Su Xing. "Are we to kill it?" A very soft voice suddenly sounded out next to Su Xing. Turning his head to look, Gongsun Huang had emerged from the star nest and sat on Su Xing's shoulder. The little girl stared at that Gu demon flying over, her face calm. "Little Huang, quickly go back to self-cultivate." Su Xing coldly looked at the flying 10,000-year Gu. At this time, he suddenly recalled something. A multicolored mirror of bright light appeared on his wrist. This was a treasure mirror that Holy Mother Qixia in the end turned over to Wu Xiao, called some shifting light mirror that was reportedly able to restrain a Gu. However, Su Xing did not believe that Holy Mother Qixia could be so kind. He feared there was some plot, but this indeed was unmistakably a heavenly spirit-grade astral treasure. Now, he could only test it. It was not going to make things worse anyways. Gongsun Huang wanted to say something but hesitated. Su Xing shouted and pointed the mirror. The mirror shot a 7-colored light onto the 10,000-year Gu demon's body and illuminated it, and the 10,000-year Gu demon screamed. The light-shifting image-switching mirror, Lady Snake Scorpion suddenly went pale in shock when she saw this. The multicolored light sparkled and enshrouded the body of the 10,000-year Gu demon. Those multicolored lights could be said to be strange, like petals elegantly fluttering. They finally converged to a single point and unexpectedly transformed into the shape of a person. When Lady Snake Scorpion saw this, she was about to advance to break it, but she simply was incapable of breaking away from Yan Yizhen. Could it be this Gu had some use? Seeing the Lady Snake Scorpion so anxious, Su Xing thought there was a trick, but his smile immediately disappeared. That clump of multicolored light barely made the 10,000-year Gu demon feel dazzled, and Su Xing did not see any substantive harm. The converging multicolored lights scattered like butterflies. Then, a graceful figure transformed from the light, leaving Su Xing dumbstruck. That figure's head wore a sunset cloud cap and draped her body in sunset cloud nikhang. 2. Starlight twinkled, a rainbow chi linked together, and a powerful star energy awed everyone present. Astonishingly, it was Holy Mother Chi Xia. Fuck. Seeing that Holy Mother Chi Xia's hand held a similar treasure mirror, the two mirrors seemed to overlap space and allowed her to emerge. Su Xing finally knew why Lady Snake Scorpion would be that startled and call out some light-shifting image-switching mirror just now. Some Gu restraining object this was, it was clearly an astral treasure that transmitted across space. This Holy Mother Chi Xia honestly was cunning as a fox, unexpectedly exploiting them to go search for the 10,000-year Gu and deliberately saying this mirror was capable of restraining the Gu. A proper reflection allowed her to be sent over as the man to obtain both the snipe and clam. Old monsters that lived for 100 years carefully planned and accounted, as expected. When Holy Mother Chi Xia emerged and spotted the 10,000-year Gu demon, she showed a flabbergasted expression and unhideable happiness. She pointed, and several seals flew in every direction. There was a boom nearby, and 7 banners of different dazzling and glaring light unfurled at 7 corners. At the same time, there was a phoenix cry. 7 colored rainbow light simultaneously appeared on the 7 banners, and this rainbow light flew out like a phoenix. Each of the banners' phoenixes simultaneously twisted their heads to look at the 10,000-year Gu in the middle. Opening their beaks, they gathered a resplendent beam of light, as if something in their beaks was about to spray out. The 10,000-year Gu was trapped by the rainbow light, furiously roaring without end. The black chi of its whole body burst out, and that myriad of black wisps and poison needle-like fur was like a hedgehog's as it contracted to form a shield. Black light flashed, and a layer of poison membrane instantly enshrouded it. At the same time, black light shot out and revolved around its body. When Su Xing saw this, his heart shuddered. This 10,000-year Gu demon seemed to sense danger. It appeared to be somewhat wise, unexpectedly using a Gu demon ability, arranging layer upon layer of defenses. Furthermore, when it saw Holy Mother Chi Xia's 7 banners, it also felt pressure. Perhaps this was Holy Mother Chi Xia's life-cast move. Su Xing guessed correctly, for this was Holy Mother Chi Xia's Chi Xia banners. 3. These banners were meticulously refined by Holy Mother Chi Xia, capable of offense and defense, of trapping and array breaking. This ability was omnipotent. When the Chi Xia banners emerged, that cultivator would be in the middle of her palm. The 7 banners glowed, already shooting light soundlessly. Unexpectedly, the 7 were seemingly tangible light pillars. The 7 multicolored light intersected with one another, becoming a resplendent rainbow. The light was the width of a bowl, and it flashed and faded, slamming into the black light of the Gu demon. The multicolored light and the black light interwove, and the result was that the black light barely resisted for a brief moment. Then, it was struck full of hole like snow in the spring sun. Break! Holy Mother Chi Xia chanted. The 7 multicolored lights was weakened but not eliminated. It once again attacked the 10,000-year Gu demon's poison membrane. Where it touched, the poison membrane boiled incessantly, as if it had been dissolved. That ugly and malevolent odd body of the 10,000-year Gu demon continuously struggled, and Holy Mother Chi Xia faintly said, "Change." The moment the multicolored light changed and struck the 10,000-year goo demon's body, its two heads and limbs constantly struggled, but the 7 multicolored lights were just like stocks and chains, tightly trapping the 10,000-year goo demon. Under the multiple colored light's ravage, the 10,000-year goo demon sharply howled in pain. A super void cultivator acting was formidable, as expected. It was only an instant, but she already stopped the 10,000-year goo demon. Of course, this was related to Holy Mother Qi Xia's magic weapon. Even Su Xing looked enviously at those Qi Xia banners. Su Xing surreptitiously hooked onto the miraculous Bodhi tree with his divine intent. He currently hesitated as to whether or not he should act to interrupt Holy Mother Qi Xia. Allowing this terrifying goo demon of 10,000 poisons in one body to be captured honestly was too dangerous. The reason why he did not act now was that his impression of Holy Mother Qi Xia was very good. In Su Xing's capacity as a soldier, Holy Mother Qi Xia had never shown malice. She had even given him more than 100,000 bells immortals due and became sworn sisters with Wu Xiao. Only this made Su Xing somewhat hesitant. That line in his heart still was somewhat difficult to change. Suddenly, Su Xing sensed the light-shifting image-switching mirror in his hand apparently was being sucked away by some immense force. Su Xing's hand clenched tight, and imbuing his star energy, only then did it finally quiet down. He spotted Holy Mother Qi Xia watch him, seemingly smiling yet not. Her expression was somewhat odd. Most probably, she was shocked Su Xing unexpectedly could restrict her divine intent control. Inwardly resentful, Su Xing coldly grinned, "Holy Mother, there is no need to be this wasteful of good feelings, unexpectedly fooling your servant with some item that can trap the goo." This seat did not speak wrongly. Has your use of the light-shifting mirror now not stopped the goo? Holy Mother Qi Xia actually seemed very amiable. Su Xing inwardly thought, "Fuck, this woman is greatly cunning. This seat does not see your wife. Is she not present?" Holy Mother Qi Xia leisurely looked at the far-off Lady Snake Scorpion, seemingly treating her as air. When she looked at skillful star wanderer Yan Qing, she actually showed a hard-to-conceal odd expression. This light-shifting mirror only has its image-switching aspect as useful. You holding onto it is useless. Holy Mother Qi Xia smiled. Her words were very gentle, making Su Xing feel that if he did not return it to her, that truly was a reviled matter. Of course, in the eyes of others, a galaxy cultivator that dared seize a supervoid cultivator's magic weapon must be very amazing. But, Su Xing secretly laughed, to this woman who used him like this, return the mirror to her? This sort of folly of being sold by someone and having to help them count the money, Su Xing certainly did not have interest in abiding. Although the star energy of a supervoid cultivator was extremely powerful, Su Xing basically lacked completely the grounds to retaliate. Even if he used the miraculous Bodhi tree, it would be futile. This mirror is actually profound. Could the Holy Mother lend it to your servant to feast his eyes upon? Just take it as allowing your servant to broaden his horizons. Su Xing said. Holy Mother Qi Xia stared blankly. This was the first time a galaxy cultivator dared to raise a request of her. Interesting. Holy Mother Qi Xia soon after threw it, and the image-switching mirror arrived in Su Xing's hand. With the gap between them, perhaps there would not be a supervoid cultivator that would fear a galaxy cultivator pulling some small trick. Holy Mother Qi Xia actually also was very fond of this man, so she saw no harm in doing so. Su Xing sized up the image-switching mirror in his hand. This mirror was like a shadow, for it just happened to be able to form a double-sided mirror when placed together with the shifting light mirror. Su Xing tested sending in a trace of divine intent. Astral treasures did not require refinement, so Su Xing could very easily sense the information of the light-shifting image-switching mirror. This mirror used the image-switching mirror to transfer, and the light-shifting mirror served as the destination. As long as it was not a special location, the user could instantly go straight between the two locations. However, using the light-shifting image-switching mirror had a condition that it could only be used once within a certain time. The transferring person needed to expend comparatively tremendous star energy, but that instant transfer actually made Su Xing's heart move instantly. He wondered how Holy Mother Qi Xia came to have such a mirror defiant of the natural order. Yan Yizhen at this time did not go attack Lady Snake Scorpion under Su Xing's surreptitious sound transmission, walking back to his side. This one is... Holy Mother Qi Xia showed slight astonishment as she looked at Yan Yizhen and Gongsun Huang. This is your servant Star General Yan Qing. Su Xing replied, for he had no need to conceal it. As expected, sire is a star master. Holy Mother Qi Xia was not surprised. Hiss. The 10,000-year Gu demon sealed by Holy Mother Qi Xia produced a shrill scream, and Holy Mother Qi Xia glanced indifferently at it. She was slowly refining this 10,000-year Gu demon's energy, and later, she could easily capture it. This seed had not thought it would be a 10,000-year Gu demon. Truly exceptional. Does Holy Mother need this Gu demon when she is this powerful? Su Xing's killing intent gradually withdrew because he saw that Holy Mother Qi Xia did not have any intent to be his enemy. Since she was not a foe, Su Xing naturally had not need to go provoke the trouble of a supervoid cultivator. The so-called one more friend was always more powerful than one more enemy. It being very weak is only because it has only been born. Infants are all feeble. Holy Mother Qi Xia flatly smiled. Su Xing pensively nodded. To be able to make a supervoid cultivator this tempted, this 10,000-year Gu demon perhaps was a fiendish demon. However, these had no relation to Su Xing. This was the Vermilion Bird Territory's affair, anyways. Should the heavens fall, there was still a transforming star of annihilation cultivator that would go resist. A tiny star master like himself had no need to go stand out, bringing trouble onto himself. On the other side, Lady Snake Scorpion was very resentful, but Holy Mother Qi Xia was supervoid level. How could she dare hurry? Otherwise, the other side could just destroy her by raising a hand. Holy Mother Qi Xia, what is the meaning of this snatching both the snipe and clam? Lady Snake Scorpion coldly said, this Gu demon certainly is not something you can enjoy. Humph. A heavy pressure crushed Lady Snake Scorpion. Mother Highness. Xia Bao bared her fangs, and the golden scorpion fine rain needles flew out. But it was struck down halfway by a multicolored light. Xia Bao also flew out. Basically without acting, the supervoid cultivator relied on star energy that was one with the world to be able to easily overturn Lady Snake Scorpion. For the sake of the Rock Demon King's face, this seat shall let you off. As for refining this demonic creature, it would be best to let this seat purify it. Holy Mother Qi Xia slightly smiled. What a Holy Mother Danxia, Lady Snake Scorpion's face was nearly green from fury. Do not think that this queen is easy to bully. Suddenly, Lady Snake Scorpion shouted, flipped her hand, and a bright divine sword of flashing starlight appeared. The Gu Valley of skyrocketing evil chi was immediately rolled away by starlight, and a galaxy sprinkled down. Stars falling dragon sword. Holy Mother Qi Xia shouted in astonishment. Without the slightest hesitation, she pointed, and a spiritual power pressed towards Lady Snake Scorpion. She wanted to restrict her, but Lady Snake Scorpion coldly laughed and brandished the stars falling dragon sword. Suddenly, a dragon roar shook the skies, and dragons filling the sky emerged as a sea. Su Xing thought to himself, fuck, with no choice but to painfully raise the 12 heaven tearings. It seemed this time, the damage was disastrous. After returning, it would require a long time to nurture the flying swords. Afterwards, he threw out every sort of protective artifact and talisman as if they were free change. As for using the miraculous Bodhi tree, Su Xing definitely did not think of doing good things. Right now, he looked forward to even more chaos. Holy Mother Qi Xia could not obtain the 10,000-year Gu demon, and it was best to destroy it. The golden swords became a shield, and Su Xing took the chance to store the shifting light image switching mirror into his bag. Yanesian entered the star nest, for without the protection of a star beast, even she would be incapable of resisting the star's falling dragon sword. Holy Mother Chi-Xia also promptly threw out a cloud cloak. The cloud cloak's light flourished and enveloped the Holy Mother in layer after layer. She looked askance at Su Xing and did not speak. The myriad dragons immediately engulfed the Gu Valley. The countless corpses of the poison creatures were immediately turned to ash and scattered smoke. The countless dragons easily ripped open all of Su Xing's defenses. Only by relying on the dragon scale flying swords did he barely withstand it. Even so, Su Xing felt his body was about to be torn and his bones crushed. Damn it, this lady snake scorpion appeared to be thinking that if she could not obtain it, she might as well make others to be unable to as well. Have courage, I admire. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.